like one shot, and you kind of know if it's not an instant appeal, then you're hosed. But like even still, you can like contact TikTok. You can have your appeal gone through and higher. But the smaller people, they just don't care, man. It's wild. Um, but anyway, guys, thanks for coming in here. Appreciate you guys as always. Like, but I really wanted to start today with the big news. Canada. Corey, what are you guys doing up there, man?
We're going to the gold medal hockey game.
No, no. It's your entire country has been exposed as frauds and cheaters. Curling scandal that's rocked. That's
Oh, the
rocked.
little double touch.
That's just it's everywhere. It is absolutely one. I can't get curling off of the coverage every time I turn it on, like because I'm like, oh, it's like the kids, I'm like, this is the Olympics. This is amazing. I turn it on, curling like every night.
That's what people have been saying. I haven't watched it at all, but I was just watching a video where someone was saying that all they're seeing is curling. Like they watch the Olympics, but it's just curling.
Literally, my wife will be like at work, like in the middle of the night, they'll just like throw on something. And it's like curling again. I'm like, there's no possible way that they have this much curling to play. It's insane.
All they're seeing is curling. Like everything that like
curling's taken off.
Yeah, yeah, it's
could it be like? Yeah, what I was wondering when I heard that the first, because I wasn't sure if that like was everyone else's experiences, but like you're telling me you're having the exact same time. So like I'm wondering if it's like a scheduling thing, like just when Americans happen to tune in, it just happens to be curling.
Admittedly, we're like, yeah, it's probably is like in their cycle of sports, like when we tune in like 7 p.m. That's like when they're showing their highlights of the day of curling or something. But it's crazy. It's because this whole, if you're not aware, basically when you there's all these, when you have the rock or whatever they call it,
the stone. I'm going to start enforcing proper terminology as a proud Canadian curler.
Here, I will mute you real quick. Yeah, and then the wait, you do curling, Corey?
No, I don't. My grandmother did do curling. She was actually pretty big into it.
I played bocce ball. I mean, it's like that was like a fun thing.
I've heard of that, but I don't actually know what that is.
Yeah, it's kind of similar. You have like a stone that is the center, and then you're kind of like trying to throw rocks like towards it, kind of thing. But basically, this guy is like, he pushes it, and then he does like this little. I have no idea what he thinks he's doing. Assuming you're pushing off of the blocks, and how far it's going to go based off of how you push it. So it sounds like he's adding another variable. When he's like pushing it like that. Like, who knows what that's going to do? And if you really wanted to push it harder,
it could be both good or bad. It's like, at least, again, I'm not an expert curler. He's just trying to pass on good vibes,
Yeah. So, but it's obviously like such an unconscious thing that he's doing, because he kept doing it. People were like, apparently there's no like video replay on curling, which like is exposed this whole thing.
From what I understand, and correct me, like, well, I guess there's no curling experts around to correct me, but whatever, anybody in your chat wants. But like, a little bit of knowledge that I like looked into is like, apparently like there's a lot of basically the honor system in curling.
Yeah.
They just rely. Teams trust their opponent teams, like, oh, they're going to enforce the rules on themselves.
It's amazing. How is that? That's so funny to me that it's just like, they're like, yeah, it's just an honor. Like, that is the most Canadian thing. I think you don't even have judges. You just have like, it's like, that's so funny. But then there's this clip of the guy, and they're like cussing each other out, being like, no, I didn't do that. What are you talking about? Yada, yada, yada. And like, they're going at it. He got so mad, which is very un-Canadian of him. So I feel
it
like
is. Yes, I'm not proud of that.
I feel like we have to get him out.
But yeah, it's definitely all over my Canadian news feed.
Really?
Articles have been written, and yeah, maybe this is all just an op to get curling into the mainstream, or to get people more interested in it.
But that's actually But that's what happened with the skiing, right?
Mhm.
The flying skiing, the jumping skiing, or whatever it was,
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
the injections and all that stuff.
Yeah, with the ejections and the suits and the expanding crotches, like what if really? Because like one, I think the crotch things in particular is that like there was like no evidence that anyone had actually done it. Just for like I think they were like, theorizing this is a thing that people could do, and then like now they're like, did someone do it? And it got mixed in with another incident when people did modify their suits, but not with like injecting their penises, right? Um, so like I'm curious if like they're like, okay, let's just go with this. I mean, it's in the news and now people are talking about it, like articles are being written, and
Yeah.
so with this curling thing, like now there's drama around curling, right? It's
Yeah,
like
dude,
forcing
this is our
people
moment.
with it.
Curling's having
Yeah,
a moment for sure.
yeah, like
I
that
mean,
wouldn't
yeah,
be a
if
bad
someone
idea.
in like
Yeah.
California is now aware of curling, then
Yeah.
that's a win.
I can't get away from it. I can't get away from it. It's amazing. I mean, it's I don't know. It's funny, man. It's funny. I think like um it's just cool to like see all the different types of sports. My wife was like convinced that like the biathlon, she was like, "Wait, the biathlon isn't that like wouldn't that be like two sports?" And then because there's like the summer games biathlon that I feel like is like different than the winter sports because the winter sports is like shooting and then long distance skiing and then shooting again. So it's like
Something like that. Yeah.
way different. Yeah, versus like the decathlon and stuff like that. Those are like 10 sports that you all kind of like go through, but it's a really the Zamboni was invented in Los Angeles? No way. Is that real?
I think Zamboni is actually like the last name of the I could be totally
Yeah.
making
It's
stuff
the
up.
last person. Yeah, I don't know where it was invented though.
Oh
But
my
it's, yeah, the last name of the person, the guy, someone named
that's
Zamboni.
insane. That's amazing.
Corey, look in the group DM.
Right. Yes.
Um,
Look what we're doing
yeah,
for you guys. Look what we're doing for you over there. You know, like you guys didn't even know what clean ice looked like before
it
us.
feels like it should be like a Chicago thing. So, like I feel like that's where the Zamboni should like the spiritual birthplace.
It's been,
Yeah.
Should be Chicago.
I think it should have been Canadian. We,
Oh
I think we
man.
dropped the ball on that. I have no problem conceding that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so getting I guess that's I mean, that's funny. Okay, so I am curious. I guess like the first thing I really wanted to talk about, which is like the big drama, the big riff in Maha right now is with this glyphosate stuff. So the bill that Trump is signed basically is to it like to solidify and fortify glyphosate protections for like some like immunity in terms of like lawsuits, and then also to like make sure that we have enough production of it. So this is something that's really gone through the Maha crowd because they feel like there's the PFAS pesticide, which was one of the forever chemicals that that they approved. It's the glyphosate production that they're stamping and now enshrining with like judicial protections. There's just like been several they're not actually banning the vaccines, you know. So it's like I feel like there's several layers of this like chinks in the armor that are happening here, but this is like seems to be a really big one that's like caught on into the right wing sphere.
Yeah, I think so. I only like briefly skimmed through some headlines and some articles, so I'm not 100% sure of all the details of what's happening with the Roundup slash glyphosate. But I think yeah, there's sort of well, it's not surprised that there's a rift, but like I think they're kind of like backed into a corner, or like there's no winning in terms of because like there's an element of Maha that they want a deregulation. I think in terms of like let's say pharmaceuticals, there's an element in the MAGA movement of like they don't want let's say FDA regulation of certain pharmaceuticals. You know, they want the ability to take things like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. But then if you don't want any regulation at all, then you have to be fine with things like Roundup and all the other whatever consequences that come from that. And so all that to say is like a rift or like something like this happening is not surprising to me.
It doesn't seem like I think to be fair to them is I don't think they should have to compromise. I mean, like again, I don't obviously, there's the Anti-MAHA Headquarters, right? So we have a stance here about like their overall goals. However, right within the confines of their ideology, like it seems like yeah, we were pushing for what they see as a healthier society. Glyphosates fall completely outside of that, like like completely outside of this. Um, but and also the PFAS, right? Like that all fall, and like specifically the PFAS. Like there's been a lot of talk about that, right? There's no way that like the people voting for Trump, like and in turn voting for Kennedy, right? To RFK, no way that they were looking for that, right? That just like is outside that coalition. I mean, from their perspective, I don't know. I don't know. Like there is no Republican there is no Republican constituency like that is like pro glyphosates and pro PFAS, right? Like that, like
That's
that's
true.
just like a corporate
Correct.
thing.
It's
But on
I
the other
think
side of that, well, let
Go
me just finish it here.
ahead.
I'm almost done. No, on the other side of that, though, right? Like, yes, you guys are correct in terms of like, well, the Republicans have always been for deregulation, right? That's always been part of their deal, and you're buying into their coalition. That part's
Mhm.
fair. But it's like I think like within their expectations, I think it's fair to say that well, with all this popular support, the popular support was like was beef tallow, right? That's what we wanted,
And whole
and
milk
that's
and raw milk.
and whole milk, right? All those things are firmly like
Jean pants in the
gettable
gym.
things, right? Yeah, they're firmly gettable things, and like the glyphosate is just like such a deep slap in the face. I'm just really curious where the movement was going, but I don't think these things are like it's unreasonable for them to have expected otherwise. So I don't know.
No, I agree. And well, so uh, yeah, I'm just curious how it's going to play out, especially if now there's some sort of like legal protections. It's, well, and like so without getting into the weeds of like glyphosate and its safety, but from my perspective, from everything the research that I've seen, like glyphosate is like largely like pretty safe. It doesn't really pose any major health
Yeah,
risks to humans.
exactly.
It's just a lot of people just fear chemicals for a variety of reasons, some
Exactly.
justified, some unjustified. But like but this was like
Well, I thought glyphosates were like a known carcinogen.
At really high
That's
levels.
why
This
they
is
have
kind
to
of the
be like.
problem.
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
mean, at high levels. So that's the thing, is that it's like at and this is why, like, so I mean, full disclosure, I've like made
he works
plants
for big glyphosate,
to
big
glyphosate.
Roundup.
Like I was at a land plant biotechnology company, and that was the thing that we did, is that there's basically a gene inside of the plant's genome that makes them resistant to glyphosate, but it's usually
Mhm.
not turned on. And but you can do it through some genetic
Roundup resistance.
modifications. Yeah, it's making them Roundup ready, basically
Yeah,
create
Roundup ready.
this
Yeah.
this gene that turns it on, that makes them resistant to this stuff. So then when you spray your crops, everything that doesn't have that glyphosate resistance gene dies. Because herbicides are actually the number one way as a farmer that you lose the key nutrients that you need for your plant in order to grow. So you don't want plants. That's kind of the whole idea. Um, so, but the United States is kind of like locked into this shoot right now, where because of like the Bill Clinton administration, and basically one of the things that they did in order to spur renewable energy, is that they mandated ethanol to be in our gasoline. And basically
Mhm.
what that meant was that we have now, one, it coupled like corn to oil prices, which isn't good. And then two, it basically made like a bunch of farmers invest heavily into corn. So you look at percentage of crops planted and all that kind of stuff. It's a ton of corn that we have planted. But guess what? Again, why is that? Well, it's there because it's a renewable form of energy inside of our gasoline. But guess what? People, as we are moving now to ban electric cars by like 2050 and stuff like that, the corn industry is in dire straits because basically they're kind of like in an impasse where they have something that's there but that isn't that useful, and it's going to be less and less useful as it goes on. And then on top of that, um, he's also hurting farmers in terms of exports, so with the tariffs and things like that. So like farmers are uniquely in a really bad position right now in the United States. Like we've kind of like given them a product that isn't really like future proof. We've straddled them with tariffs, and that's why they're being bailed out. Like tens of billions of dollar bailouts just constantly happening right now because we have they have to be paid for these crops. So it's crazy.
And well, and if I remember correctly, like either like, well, last year was like a record year for bankruptcies filed for like farmers,
Mhm.
or like I remember reading some sort of or like it was a
It's
bad
very
year
bad.
last year for
It's
farmers.
very bad.
But it's interesting since like from what I understand, at least last I checked, in voter habits, like farmers largely support Trump, or like at least
Yeah.
that is the demographic that I would expect to sort of like largely support Trump.
Exactly. Yeah. Then that's the problem is that they do, and now especially with like mass deportations happening on, it's like, okay, well, like what are you gonna do? Like what are you gonna do? I mean, this is again like I just see like the future of farming just not being with these plants. I mean, there's a great example of like why this is just not a good way and path forward for humans to do because you have all these externalities, right? You have like the runoff of the glyphosate into waterways or into the runoff of nutrients, creating oxygen minimal zones. Like there's tons of like externalities that can happen to your farm. There's lots of runoff problems that your farm can do to other people. It's just it's not like I just don't feel like farming is like really that big of a sustainable metric, and now we're seeing um, we're just seeing it kind of like come up. It's very, it's frustrating. Like obviously we need more environmental regulations, we need more monitoring. But guess what, dude? The EPA, all those scientists are gone. Like the environmental monitoring groups and stuff. They're not, they're not staffed. We're not like, and that's it's a huge problem.
Yeah, I'm curious how this is going to, because like I agree with you that generally speaking, farming is not overly sustainable, um, and I think in whatever the next 10, 20 years, like I think, well, obviously farming has gotten more and more automated over time, right? And like a handful of humans with all the machinery and equipment they have, they can do quite a bit of farming. But I think even
Mhm.
more and more, it's going to become more and more automated whenever, if in fact those humanoid robots come into play. um,
Yeah, soon.
uh, yeah, probably sooner rather than later. I don't know what the
Yeah,
actual
yeah.
timeline is, but I think it's in the pipeline. I'm not going to trust Elon Musk to develop it, but other people will for sure. Um, and like even just without automation, I think our food system probably has to, like let's say for example, I'm curious, just in this vein of like how Maha or Mako is going to react. Like we're already seeing how they react to, for example, lab grown meat. Okay,
Mhm.
where I think certain states have banned. I think Florida has like explicitly banned lab grown meat. Um, but then we probably need to get to a place where we have actual accessible affordable lab grown meat. And let's
Yeah.
say other engineered or whatever synthetically grown crops or food. But then is Maha going to accept that? I assume they're going to uh, pretty much impose, or their argument will be like all food has to like be natural, since like that's always their
Yeah.
argument of like it has to be natural. We need natural beef tallow. Okay, like they'll have beef, but like I'm if there's bioengineered beef tallow, which is like molecularly the same, they're going to reject it anyways,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. I think
Um,
like go ahead, go for it, man.
no, you go first, please.
Yeah, I think like w- um at the end of the day, it's just going to be more and more expensive for farmers to do like conventional farming. You're going to have climate change, which is creating like more and more crops that aren't going to yield productive harvests. You're going to have just productivity per acre going down. You're going to have corn, having to be shifted over into other different types of farms. There's going to be like a massive agricultural revolution in this country. Like, I genuinely, in the next 20 years, like, what do we do with those spaces? Like, what do we, if we want things that can be, food, fuel, materials, which is kind of the idea of the corn, right? The corn is like the way that we create a, a sugar, and then that sugar we can transmute into other biological things. Like that's where ethanol comes from, right? Where, because you grow the corn makes the yeast food, the yeast food makes more yeast, the yeast makes the ethanol, and then that ethanol goes in the gas. So like in theory you could make that, that sugar, that plant sugar, in a multiple different ways. You could make it through like algae ponds. You could make it in switchgrass, which is way more efficient as a photosynthesizer than corn. Corn's like uniquely very bad. It's very stocky. There's lots of like things that lots of lignin that are it's really hard to break down. So then there's like a whole side of science which is called like cellulosics, which is trying to like cellulases and trying to like break down like these really rigid plant structures that like aren't good, because what you want is like the lipids, the sugars. The lipids we turn into gas, and pharmaceutical and cosmetics. The sugars you used for food, proteins you use for for whatever, for making more more meat, that kind of thing. So there's other ways of doing it. We just need kind of like, where we're stuck in this rut of like this 30-year-old policy. And it's sad because it's like it's one of the only defining renewable energy like bills that have actually happened in our country, and it's kind of like weighing us down now.
Yeah, I mean, there's all this technology out there to make all these improvements, but it's hampered by, well, now an exodus of researchers, and also just like, uh, the MAGA movement will pretty much, they're not going to accept these types of technology. I don't think they're going to accept, unless they're demonstrably like significantly better than the alternative, or I don't know, they're just forced to actually, because like, yeah, I agree, our food system has to evolve.
Yeah, it's going to, like, whether people like it or not. I mean, I think that you're right in the fact that people are always going to like, have this nostalgia about like, oh man, I remember when a steak of beef was like, it tasted different, and like when it had a sizzle on the grill that you can't have. Like, there's definitely going to be a romanticization of that in the future, and there's definitely going to be beef that you could still buy, from a cow, but it's just going to be more and more expensive. Like, it's just going to be to the point where people can't afford it.
Well, like, I hope that's the case, but so let's say, as an example, where, okay, internal combustion engine cars versus electric cars. Okay, I'm pretty sure, like, essentially, it's a foregone conclusion that EVs are going to win. Like, the rest of the world are adopting them, but I think it seems like from the information that I've gathered, like, the U.S. Is like, is pretty much, well, I think they got rid of the EV subsidies, right? And Americans seem to still love their internal combustion engine cars, and it doesn't seem like you're developing like an electric charging grid for EVs, right? And I think we're seeing now, I think car manufacturers, like I think Ford or Stellantis, like, they're sort of now, like, they were investing in electric vehicles, but now they're like pivoting back to internal combustion engines, because it's like, it seems like the American market, just like Americans, let's say, if I remember like the data correctly, of like comparing, let's say, European or other country car purchasing habits. Like, if you compare just like the size of a typical American car versus the size of like a typical European car, like, Americans like their SUVs. Americans like, their big their big trucks, because there's the expectation that cars have to be big, and now there's this expectation that like your car has to be an internal combustion engine. And I think one of the reasons why Americans like their internal combustion engine cars is because like they like the sound of the engine and like revving it, okay, and all that stuff. And we even see it now, from what I understand. Like I've never driven an EV, but like I think there are EVs now. It's like that they're actually trying to simulate like the sounds of like an internal combustion engine car, because it seems like people like that. As in, if a car's not making noise, that means it's a bad car. But that's like that's explicitly better technology of like cities are quieter when there's less internal combustion engine cars. I don't really like hearing traffic of cars, but for whatever reason,
safety thing too. But yeah,
sure. But I think that can be overcome through other means. And so it's like, yeah, like this rejection of just advancement of technology, I think seems to be a fairly, not purely uniquely American thing, but it seems to be much bigger in the United States, especially now these days, where again, I've made the argument many times before, just like I'm making now, of like the rest of the world is going to move on. Like Canada is allowing a certain amount of Chinese electric vehicles into their country. EVs, from what I understand, are pretty big in South America, and so you're just gonna have like this little pocket of the United States where it's internal combustion engine cars, and I think there's only gonna be so much that you can get out of those.
Okay, so right. I was looking for. I spent the time looking for an article, and I'm pretty good at saving articles. I've got many hundreds saved. And I guess I didn't save this one, but I believe there was an article trying to link increasing cancer rates to location, or maybe a study, linking increasing cancer rates to location, and specifically, like to people who are using, or to areas where a lot of
Roundup or glyphosate is used.
Roundup, yeah, glyphosate were used. I distinctly remember someone discussing this. And I was looking at this article. I didn't save it, so I'm going to still look for that. And so like I do want to talk about like that. Like, so you said glyphosates are only bad when they're used heavily, right? So that would be in farming. Well, that part of the problem, right? There was like a suit because like these things weren't even labeled, just so that farm workers could even understand that. And so they would get a lot of this. But it might also be the case, and again, I don't have the article in front of me, I'm still looking for it. It might also be the case that like people within those neighborhoods, right? Like this stuff is just, I mean, you're spraying this, but it doesn't stay on the farm. It gets flushed, right? Rain happens or whatever, but people within that neighborhood, within that area, that they would get exposed. So like, wouldn't that still like, be a problem, like a general concern? Or you're saying that like, like Corey said, like, well, people are just generally scared of chemicals, but this one seems a bit like actually real, but maybe my understanding is incorrect. So,
well, I'm definitely not a world expert on glyphosate, but I mean, so at the end of the day, sort of toxicology 101 is like the dose makes the poison, and like I think when Greg mentioned like at high doses potentially maybe causes problems. I haven't looked in the data in a while, but I would say it's probably going to be like at levels that you're probably just not going to encounter in farm use. And even then, like unless someone's actually like straight up drinking Roundup, even then you're probably like. But all that to say, let's say at the end of the day, like yes, should we be cautious? Yes, but what I can say as a biochemist, okay, and this is not the pure end all and be all of the argument, but glyphosate, its mechanism of action is like unique to plants in terms of like what it targets, as in like without getting into the weeds, but pretty much it inhibits a specific enzyme / protein in plants that we as humans do not have. Okay, now that doesn't mean that it's absolutely safe for us, because like you can still be poisoned by something that, is not necessarily affecting your proteins. But let's just say the mechanism, it'd be hard to justify that it's harmful to humans. But that aside as well, I believe the not the randomized control trials, but rather the evidence has been gathered to determine that glyphosate is overall generally quite safe, and any level that would need to be dangerous is pretty much I don't think is actually encountered in the real world. It's you'd have to be sort of injecting it into your veins. But if Greg wants to correct me, if anybody wants to correct me, feel free. But that is overall, in what I've looked into, that was the overall message that I received.
Yeah, I think that the overall thing is especially anyone that cares about the environment wants as minimal runoff from farms as possible. You want the minimum dosage if you're a farmer, because that pesticide costs money, or the herbicide costs money. You don't want runoff coming into your waterway as a farmer. You don't want it to run off nutrients, to run off from your farm, because that's wasted money that you spent on your nutrients that isn't being feeding your crops. So there's a huge and this is where environmental monitoring comes in. These are jobs that are regulatory EPA stuff, and this is a great example of how regulations create careers, because now you have environmental toxicologists that their whole thing is to measure up and downstream of farms in order to make sure that there's not any dumping going on, that there's not any, up and downstream, making sure that, how much are you contributing to this nonsense kind of thing. So and especially as an ecologist, I want, you want the least amount of impact from farms to outside of farms into natural places as well. So any type of you just don't want any of that to happen. Right. So I think even though I've created products that are patents that are these glyphosate resisting things that require Roundup, that's not where people are saying that this is, it's a tool. It's a tool to be used specifically and strategically, and sparingly. And I think that that's you want the minimum effective dosage. And I think that that's the big case, and versus when a lot of people the MAHA people that come in, kind of just say it's this flippantness, and if anything, I want way more environmental monitoring for this stuff to make sure that it isn't happening. And I think that the problems that have happened is those duplications of the runoff into waterways that people don't know, bad applications at bad timing, so that it's running off into waterways that they don't know about. So that and then that kind of spills over into water tables or anything like that, or well water, that kind of thing. That's from what I understand, that would be how you could get into trouble in that case.
And also, to be clear, I'm not super, well, let's just say I'm not opposed to Roundup or glyphosate, but I'm not pro Monsanto. Let's put it that way. Okay, especially I have no problem if that company ceased to exist. And also, I'm not a fan, from what I understand, of what I think Monsanto has done in terms of yes, they've developed this glyphosate, but then now they have to have the farmers have to use specific seeds, and the Terminator seeds, and all that stuff. I think that seems very problematic, and but for myself, I can't really from what I've seen of the evidence, and back in the day, to do a pretty deep dive of I can't ignore the fact that this chemical does seem overall safe. But that's not to say, and I'm all for as much oversight and regulation as possible, and am I concerned with runoff? Yes, but I'm not concerned, and I'm not overall concerned with runoff due to, let's say, significant concerns to human health. And Greg can probably speak more to this. I'm more concerned with runoff in terms of how it affects the overall environment and ecosystems. And as Greg said, in terms of like having things like this in water systems that throws off the balance of the ecosystem. And then you have as you said, dead zones and depletion and all that stuff. But like, let's just say if it's a worst case scenario that there's like, let's say, some runoff into some water that's consumed by humans. Like my concern is like the contaminated water that might be affecting the ecosystem as opposed to human any sort of harm to humans, unless again it's like some crazy super high levels at that point.
Does that match what you saw, Prime, in your finding of that, or were you like reading more about
So
that?
while you guys were talking, I was listening. But I also, I believe I found what I was looking for. So
Awesome.
I'm gonna put this in our group chat, and you guys can
Sure.
take a look. It's a
Oh,
long
absolutely.
article. Unfortunately, I haven't read it already, so like it's yeah. But take a look. And it may not like link. I haven't. Oh, well, I guess I can just do a search right now. But oh yeah, glyphosates are in the article. But like it says pesticide in general. It doesn't like it doesn't seem like it's focusing necessarily on glyphosates, but it does pop up in the article. In any case, it's talking about how and for the audience, so you guys know what we're talking about. I'll read the name. It's from a site called Investigate Midwest. It says the title is Pesticide Use and Cancer Risk Rise Together Across America's Heartland. And the subtitle is America's farmers and farm workers, their families and neighbors are being diagnosed with cancer at rates higher than the national average. A growing body of research indicates that pesticides are partly to blame. It starts off this article about with this woman, Lisa Lawler, who unfortunately got breast cancer, and her mother apparently had breast cancer previously, and she died in 2016. So Lisa was diagnosed in 2025, and it was really bad, and they had to remove at least one of her breasts. Not sure if it was both. And they ran a genetic test on her and completely for like 81 genes, it says, and for the common markers, and like none of that came up, right? She's negative for all of that. And so her team tells her, medical team tells her that's likely environmental based. And then it goes on from there, talking about how there's a rise within the Midwest. And I saw, like, while I was looking for this specifically, Iowa came up a lot. But yeah. But again, I'm only like at the beginning of the part of this article. I haven't read the whole thing, so that's as much as I can tell you right now.
Yeah, if you want to link it, I will gladly sort of skim it
Did
and
I not link it?
unless I missed something.
Oh no, I put it. Sorry, I put it somewhere else. Sorry, never
Okay.
mind. That's my fault. I put it in another place in Discord. Apologies. But yeah, there you go. Sorry.
That's okay. No problem. I'm going to, but let's say, would it surprise me if there's an association with, let's say, heavy pesticide use, without specifying, that would not surprise me. But it would surprise me if, let's say, if they can link it to glyphosate. But if that is actually true, then we should pay attention to that. And like if more data comes out that further demonstrates that glyphosate is carcinogenic, then absolutely, I would want that regulation.
So,
As
I
soon
was
as
just I
possible.
just found I was just looking at the curious, like, so I went to scholar.google.com and just was looking at glyphosate toxicity for humans
Mm-hmm.
and found this article. So basically, it's like it's the top cited one in the last like 5 years. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
good metric at least. So the abstract. Um Glyphosate has been used as a herbicide for past 3 decades. The EPA classifies glyphosate as a practically non-toxic and non-irritant under the acute toxicity classification system. This classification is based primarily on toxicity data and due to its unique mode of action via biochemical pathway that only exists in a small number of organisms that utilize a specific acid pathway to produce amino acids, these are green plants. This classification is supported by which is what Corey was talking about. This classification is supported by the majority of scientific literature on the toxic effect of glyphosate. However, in 2005, The Food and Agriculture Organization reported that glyphosate and its major metabolite, uh, an acid, AMPA, are a potential toxicological concern, mainly as the result of accumulation of residues in the food chain. So the FAO, which is the Food and Agriculture Organization, further states that the dietary risk of glyphosate and AMPA, the acid, is unlikely if the maximum daily intake of 1 milligram per kilogram body weight is not exceeded. So that's a lot. But research has now established that the glyphosate can persist in the environment and therefore assessments of the health risks associated with glyphosate are more complicated than suggested by acute toxicity data that relate to primary to accident high rate exposure. So like the idea is like it's more than just these acute like, oh man, I touched it or something. I put my hand in a vat of glyphosate or something. It's like they could accumulate in these environmental spaces. We have used recent literature to assess the possible risk associated with the presence of glyphosate residues in the food and the environment. And then the conclusion: it's the most widely used herbicide in the world. And that the majority, so basically the conclusion, so the first paragraph of the conclusion or discussion is usually like the good, that's like the, after they've done all this stuff, this is their takeaway that the researcher is trying to get across. The majority of literature concludes that the levels of contamination do not pose a risk to most organisms and are unlikely to cause an environmental risk if recommended application rates are followed and repeat applications are avoided. So I think that's the key point, right? It's like this person that's talking about in this story, that would be something to think about. Like, well, how is she being? What's her well water looking like? Is that being tested? Where does she live? Like, what?
On that note, again, I'm just working my way, and I'm giving you information as I see it. But it says Hardin County, and this actually is Iowa, right? Again, I was seeing Iowa come up separately from other articles. But anyway, so Hardin County, which is in Iowa, home to around 800 farms, has a pesticide use rate more than 4 times the national average and a cancer rate among the highest in the state. So that could be part of it. Most of the 500 counties with the highest pesticide use per square mile are located in the Midwest. 60% of those counties also had cancer rates higher than the national average of 460 cases per 100,000 people, according to analysis of data from both the U.S. Geological Survey and the National Cancer Institute. That's so. It seems to be happening in places, again, just correlation, of course, but being correlated with like intensive use. So, bringing in what you were saying before, Dr. Greg, talked about like, first of all, like, why would a farmer want to waste? Thank you for following the channel. Why would a farmer want to waste any of their product, right? Like the product they're using, they want as little runoff as possible, right? That's like, not going to do the thing, not being used to do the thing they want to do, right? They don't just like buy this stuff in barrels and like spray it pointlessly all over the place. They want it actually doing the job, right? And so you want to like control runoff. And so like I believe that, but like I'm not sure every farmer like knows like the proper amount, and they might be incentivized in some ways to use more of it if they have an idea that it's going to somehow increase their yields, right? Like, to have a better yield, because so much is riding on, every yield. So that might affect how they use it. And then, with what you're talking about in terms of that study, with even if they are using it properly, it builds up within within the environment, right? Well, then a place like this with pesticide use rate more than 4 times the national average, right? It would seem like this would be the perfect spot to see exactly what we're seeing here. Like that doesn't seem like a like a fear that an unviable fear, right? A blown up fear, right?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think like the it just requires a lot of like of monitoring and that's like that's just you're right that the correlations and stuff should be investigated for sure. Like I don't think that the people that are living near these farms should be subjugated to this. Absolutely, but you know at the same time it's like these are like this is the EPA and this is what it's for, like this is exactly what it's for. And I'm okay with that. I don't know how much of it is like I mean there just could be other things. There could be
Of course.
other things. We don't know like the
Yeah.
exact mechanism of action, which would be even more concerning, right? If it's not the glyphosate, if there's something else that is also like, leading to it that they don't understand. But I mean, like basically putting more regulations on the farmer when they're like you're like, okay, you have to do a application of your glyphosate within 12 hours um after you water or something like that, because that way the glyphosate doesn't like run off into the soil, and which is what runs off into the environment. Like that would be like a regulation where it's like, okay, you need to like skirt some profit right now in order to like do more diligent pesticide application. And the farmer would be like, well, I'm just gonna do one spray. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna do one spray, and I'm not gonna do two because that's gonna cost me more gas in the sprayer, and the plane. So we're just gonna do one mega one, and those are kind of like where the prof the where that would be the profit incentive that could actually cause some environmental harm.
And also, like, so I'm definitely not a farmer, and I'm pretty ignorant overall on farming. But so like, and does it let's say surprise me that there appears to be some association with high pesticide use and cancer? Not super surprising, but then I just wanted to be well. I think we have to keep in mind, and again, I'm speculating because I'm not a farmer. But like when they say high pesticide use correlated with higher cancer rates in these counties, it's like, well, I don't actually know for sure, but like when farmers use pesticides, is it only one pesticide? Are they spraying like multiple rounds of different chemicals? And it's this soup, so to speak, or mix of pesticides that then is causing this potentially increase in cancer. And then but then there's so basically all that to say is like there's many variables at play. Assuming there again, I'm assuming they spray and use multiple pesticides and multiple chemicals, and so it could just be like maybe this unique mix, or like it's like again, it's not necessarily the glyphosate, but like yeah, this other pesticide or other mix of pesticides that's causing that. But basically, let's say if there's like a dozen chemicals that are used and glyphosate is one of them. Let's say if I'm a betting person, okay, I'm probably betting that like glyphosate is on the lower end of an explanation for this phenomenon here. Not
Yeah.
impossible.
So there's a lot of pest. So I'm going through this article while I'm listening to you all, but like you remembering the article is titled "Pesticides," right? Not specifically glyphosates.
Yeah,
It mentions glyphosates
it
here.
does.
It
Yeah,
has actually a statement from Roundup, talking about
how
that.
safe it is.
Um,
Wonderful.
yeah, well, I mean that's literally what it says. It says from their Jessica Christensen, the head of crop science communications for Bayer.
Yeah, I would expect them to say that.
Speaking about her company's production of Roundup, as she says, this is one of the most transparently reviewed products ever. This product is so well studied, been on the market for over 50 years of thousands and thousands of studies. There is no linkage to cancer. There just isn't. And then it goes on to say, under the Trump administration, the Environmental Protection Agency and U.S. Department of Agriculture have also hired dozens of former pesticide executives and lobbyists, some of whom have already pushed for deregulation of their industry. This is before Trump made his declaration. The Department of Health and Human Services has also altered its own reports to downplay the harm of pesticides, which, hilarious, RFK. And oh yeah, 2 states, North Dakota and Georgia, recently passed laws limiting their residents' ability to sue pesticide companies, and at least a dozen other states will consider similar laws in the coming months. So, yeah,
So that seems strange, or I don't know what the rationale behind that is, but that seems strange.
What the rationale is that a corporation paid the politicians money.
Well, then I
And
understand
so,
the corporate. Yeah, fair enough. Yes.
okay.
I,
But yeah, like I just, uh, I mean, a there's a push from the industry in general to deregulate their use, which obviously like Dr. Greg is against. But also like we're talking about pesticides in general. So I don't know myself, and maybe Dr. Greg has a better insight into this. I don't know like the mix, like how often I hear Roundup like a lot in the news, but that doesn't mean that like it's like maybe even the majority of crops are being used with Roundup,
well,
right? It might be that, yeah. Go
so
ahead.
to be technical, like, and again, this probably doesn't matter in the grand scheme of the conversation, but technically, like, Roundup is not a pesticide.
Okay.
It's an herbicide, as in like it's weed. Well, Greg can probably clarify better than I can, but like, it's just weed
Oh,
killer.
I see. Yeah. Yes, no, you're correct. You're correct. Herbicide killing weeds, a pesticide killing actual pests. No, that's true. Sorry. You're correct. I should be more careful there.
But yeah, I understand. It doesn't.
Technically, herbicides are a type of pesticides. The pest is the plant. I mean, it's just, but
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
pedantic. It's
okay.
pedantic. But the number one, like, yeah, it's okay. But it's pesticides are just any way that you're protecting your crop from anything that's trying to deplete it or attack it in
Okay.
nutrients or anything like that. So,
Okay. Yeah.
um, I think like basically this is why it's it's important, the more that you can like create, and this is why like just in general, when you create the pesticide inside of the plant, you have a small amount of it that's made that has enough in there to actually um block that insect when it eats it to actually stop it from eating your plant. There's things that you can do that can create in molecularly, making that protein inside of the plant just means that you don't have to spray more pesticides. So this is generally why genetically modified food require less pesticides, because
Mm.
you're making it inside the plant. You don't need to spray it if you have some on top of it. When you're creating and doing kind of like a broad targeted approach, um, basically you can go after those things that are trying to attack your plants. I mean, think about it, like, don't think about it as a plant in a field. Think of it as a pot of money, and everyone's trying to come and grab your money, and you're trying to stop them as much as possible. You can like do it chemically. You can create like chemical like bonds, which is like what glyphosate and stuff are. Suppose you're attacking them, like you're not able making that happen. You can have biological control agents, which are biological control agents would be like other people or other in that pot of the money example, like people stopping them from doing that. Or in the actual application, there's like you could have uh ladybugs attacking aphids, like that kind of stuff, where you have like another animal that's actually like in that food chain that would be attacking that pest. So that there's a lot of like different ways that things can happen just in general in order to protect your crop, but it has to happen, right? Like people in the natural food space and stuff think that like there's no pesticides that are used with natural organic farming, and that's just completely false, right? Because you
Mm.
have that pot of money that's sitting in the middle of the field, so people are going to grab it, or insects are going to see like this delicious food just like sitting out there, so they're going to go and try
So
to eat
people are
it.
going to try to protect their investment. Yeah.
Exactly. You have to use something, whether or not it's neem oil, which is kind of like a broad thing, which is, like, that's gonna like mess up like with how the insect deals with it. Um, but you just have to use more of it because it's usually more it's not targeted molecularly, it's not targeted specifically to that. So in general, you have to use more of it. It's just the reality of what it is.
Okay. So, and again, I'm just working my way through that particular
Hmm.
um article, and like I'll let you know if I see anything worth talking about. Um, but like, should we um like oh yeah, yeah, no, I remember. I someone brought up, like, when this article was first brought to my attention, they talked about like how um part of the reason there's such an increased use of pesticides is a lack of farm hands. That, like, another way of doing this is to have farm hands who can go in like and de-weed like an area, right? Like they can monitor an area and they can actively take physical measures there. And with, especially with like the ice crackdowns we're having now, that you have less people able to do that. So like it I mean, obviously that wouldn't affect the previous cancer rates that we were talking about, right? That precedes Trump's immigration crackdown. But like, is that, as far as you know? I'm not trying to put you on the spot if you don't really know the answer here. As far as you know, is that like a part of the problems that like we have less staff on farms now, and we have less people who could actually go out there and do these things, and so you have to rely on pesticides to get a good crop yield?
Not so much. I mean, those type of like, it's so so large. Like the application is going to be by like duster and stuff. It's not going to be by like it's just so many acres. You wouldn't be able to do that. Those people are better off like in other applications, basically in the farming
Okay.
process. What is cool and what is happening, and I have seen, is like using AI and lasers in order to stop new weeds from coming up. So it's pretty crazy, man. There's like a huge um uh, uh, basically there's a bunch of cameras and there's lasers coming out of this thing, and it's hovering like a foot off the ground, and as it's going through, it's using imaging technology in order to view and see weeds as they're coming up, and then the lasers zap them and kill them right there. So I thought that was an amazing technology because it's like you're not having any runoff, you don't have any of the secondary impacts. You're getting your number one pest, is which is a plant, taking that away. It was such a cool like application of technology. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, that sounds cool. And again, going back to the humanoid robots, like maybe at some point, the ultimate organic farming is, you just have robots patrolling all these crops, and they're just picking out the weeds all the time,
Yeah.
or they're the ones on patrol. Even just like whatever, the humanoid robots on guard, or like they're, you don't need any pesticides to spray. They're just like picking off the pests individually because they do that
Yeah, I mean, you can
24/7.
have drones. I mean, one of my publications that I did for Nature Nanotechnology was basically fully automated farming based off of nanotechnology enabled plants and drones. So kind of like linking that kind of like that world together of like drones, imaging technologies, because imaging technology is increasing, not only just like increases um, fidelity of the image, but also it allows like off wavelength capture too. So like infrared, ultraviolet, which is cool because then you can like have sensors and stuff in those areas, so you can kind of like figure out like, oh, this plant isn't doing that well because of its calcium is depleted, without it having to like by and it does that by emitting a laser signal in an infrared wavelength that you couldn't see, but you could see it with the drone. So stuff like that. It's like um, the imaging technology and how cheap and accessible these things are, it's incredible. And then with drones just being so fast, but the big problem with drones is basically um, liquid weight. So like just how much weight that they can carry with liquids isn't efficient compared to
Hmm.
like a duster, for a plane. So I do see a fully automated farming setup, capable within our lifetimes.
Hopefully.
Um, so and I'm not right now. I'm not looking at the article. I was listening to what you were saying. So you were talking about like a tech alternative, and I'm curious to see like how effective these hovering drones are. It seems like this will be this is a fight that is will have to come through multiple pathways, right? Like and I just Gemini, like what are the alternatives to using pesticides? Um, and like like I think you brought up right before like using beneficial insects like ladybugs, right? Like eating aphids. And then there's like microbial pesticides, um, like naturally occurring fungi or viruses. A common example is Bacillus thuringiensis, something or
BT,
whatever.
yeah.
BT, thank you. A soil bacterium that's toxic to many destructive worms, but safe for people. Beneficial nematoids.
That's one of the things that we've actually engineered plants to actually create that thing, that the chemical is made, that we can make that inside of plants now. So it's like
Mm.
we don't have to, it's just, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. And there's like crop rotation, companion planting, strategic planting, like physical barriers. Like so like it talks about like this whole list uh of alternatives to pesticides, using pesticides as a last resort. But I guess what I've like from your knowledge, and again, like if I'm pushing you past your current understanding, then let me know.
Mm.
But like all this sounds kind of expensive to me, right? Maybe some of these aren't so bad for a farmer, but like I'm wondering, like, is the economic incentive simply to like use pesticides because in the end they're quite effective, and it's like, well, you spray and like for the most part it takes care of it, right? Rather than going through everything that I've been listening to so far. There's even a longer list of stuff here that they could have used to reduce the reliance, right? Is it just easier at this point? Is Roundup or whatever, right? It happens to be. Is that like is the price and effort, the time it takes to apply all these things, right? Is it just so much lower for pesticides rather than anything else?
Yeah, yeah, basically. I mean,
Mm.
especially when you have, I mean, basically having a broad herbicide like that allows you to take out all these other plants, and then you can focus on like, insects and pests and stuff like that. And then you can put in different things, plant around um, your farm with other plants that are going to attract biological control agents that can like take out some of these pests so that they can't kind of like swarm, and take over your crop. So you have to do something, you know what I mean? Like there has to be some type of control mechanism that happens, because otherwise your money is just you're just not going to be profitable. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So um then looking at from that perspective, right?
Hmm.
Um do you think then, like taking everything you just said, is it fair to not to is it fair to not shield these individuals from certain lawsuits if it's the case that like there's nothing that can be done? These farms are like the backbone of these communities. um like should we take such an anti-pesticide stance here? Should we be more lenient with that? Like what should be the pathway if it is the case as just as far right now, like the best, easiest way, most cost effective way of handling the issue.
Corey, you want to say like?
Oh, well,
You want?
uh, so if pesticide use is basically, so from what I understand, uh, farmers like they work on pretty slim margins, or at least like they're pretty much like it's very easy for them to become unprofitable, like a bad
Yeah,
yield or
yeah,
whatnot. So yeah, and no surprise, like the economics of pesticide use just like wins out. And so like if pesticide use is like what allows them to be profitable, then that makes sense to me. Now, given that, does that mean that I think that laws basically they should be, these pesticide companies should be protected? Almost certainly not. Like yeah, all that, yeah, that's where my intuitions currently lie. Even though, again, things like glyphosate, as of now, seems to be largely safe, but it's not an absolute foregone conclusion. You know, there's still maybe some unanswered questions about chronic exposure. But at the end of the day, I would want to leave the window open, like if when the time comes or that evidence does roll in of like, oh, some of these pesticides are actually harmful or carcinogenic, I want people to be able to have those lawsuits.
Yeah, I support broad protections against like vaccine manufacturers because they uphold public health, and like in that vaccines aren't super profitable, and that they're crucial for us to have like a functioning society. There are other forms of creating yeast food other than corn, like we have to, I feel like it's important to create those type of like work harder like in capitalism, like having that type of like mechanism where we say, hey, if you guys are causing untoward damage to our community, then absolutely we can like sue you, and these people can sue you. Then I think that that's actually like really important. um and on top of that, it kind of like incentivizes you. The worst possible thing is that we create judicial structures in order to protect a dying asset. And I don't think, and as we're going to go forward in the next 20 years, we're going to see more and more corn farmers that are wanting to be protected, that are going to want to be bailed out. And I think that one of the big things that we need to say is like, hey, like if you're causing too much like a harm in your runoff with what you're using, we can absolutely like take you for it. Um so okay, I guess we have scientisms that apparently knows about glyphosate. Okay, I guess do you guys want to bring him in?
Sure, I don't
Sure.
know.
Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah, I guess scientism, what's up,
Hey
man?
y'all.
Hello.
Yeah, so it's an interesting conversation. I think on the glycophosphates, the studies that are done, and I would agree that it doesn't seem to like cause harm, right?
Mhm.
But that's F1 generation. It seems to be like problematical as to whether or not it's causing generational harm. And I say problematical is in we don't know either way. I'm not suggesting that it is a thing. I'm a big person to say, hey, listen, we have so many people on the planet now that the yield per acre has to go up, and it has gone up. It's
Mhm.
gone up. We used to get maybe a half ton per acre of tomatoes or something, and now it's 7 tons per acre. And that's for every crop. There's been that huge increase. But I think Monsanto and what they did, requiring one to like farmers to choose to implement this, and they had to buy a crop. They couldn't then take the seeds and replant them. That was the first criticism of Monsanto, right? You couldn't take these seeds and replant them. Secondly, we don't know what the second elite really is yet, right? So we're still unpacking this. But it is important that we have higher yield crops. I'm not against. I'm an advocate for genetically modified crops. I think we need that, right? We've already determined that we need that. Historically, the wheat yield has gone up 300% per acre. So that's big. We can't say we're against genetically modified crops and also believe that humans should exist. Because as soon as we say we can't have GMOs, then half the world's population has to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. How I see it, I mean, so full disclosure, I mean, I've done the restore knockouts for seeds in plants before. That was like my job as a molecular biologist at a plant biotechnology company. And the reason for that is the United States is unique in the fact that we actually allow patents on plants. So usually it's like a unique product or process. That's how the world kind of sees patents. And then uniquely, the United States added plants to that. And from
it's not truly unique. That's across mainly all the European countries have almost the same verbiage. It's really common.
Okay, I thought
mean,
that it was
it's not
really, okay.
It's not global, but it's not unique.
Okay, well,
So I'm
specifically
pushing back
plants,
against that statement.
specifically plants, from what I understand, it's unique. But the point is though is that as a plant biotechnology company that is genetically modifying a plant, like their product is that plant. So therefore, like if we allowed the restore gene and we allowed people to just infinitely make seeds from your product, like one, they could take your product and breed it and make something else, and who knows what that would be. So that would be kind of like infringing on your product, right? And then two, it's kind of like allowing it wouldn't be a profitable venture, right? If someone could just take one seed and then be creating a farm out of it. So I think that's it's an education problem, right? Where farmers need to be told like this is how it's going to be. It's not going to be like other plants that you've worked with. Like you can't just take the seeds and replant them. But two, I mean, this kind of gets taken into the market of capitalism, right? And like the ROI, the return on investment of these new plant seeds has to be worth the investment that you're putting into it, right? And it's like if I have to buy this every year, then I have to be getting more of a return than I can get with the wild type. So that's the kind of like the rub.
And so I just want to, well, sorry for interjecting, but so I take your point. I can't remember your name. Science Jim, was it?
Science Systems.
Scientism. Sorry, I apologize. Where are there still some outstanding questions when it comes to glyphosate or Roundup? Yes, absolutely. Like I can, as in like outstanding questions in terms of, I think as you alluded to, generational harm, or like are there issues like accumulation in the environment, and then this aspect of chronic exposure over time. I'm totally open to conducting those studies and applying regulations where applicable. But like as of now, just like I think you said, like largely Roundup is like largely safe. But to the discussion that we just had now, and I guess I don't want to like derail, but so you mentioned, Greg, that it's the United States is fairly special in the ability to patent plants. I don't actually know the laws on this, but let's say a genetically engineered bacteria. Do you know? Well, one, do you know if that's patentable? And two, do you think that should be patentable?
Yeah. I mean, it whether or not it has to be like unique, and it has to be different.
Sure.
Like it can't be you can't patent.
I can respond to this, Greg.
Go for it.
So, Greg, you may be familiar with like peptide therapy, where like this is the big thing right now. So, within peptides, which are just the sort of rule is a peptide is a protein, right? But it's by sort of regulation, I think lower than 40 amino acids in the chain, something like that legally. So that being said, these are signaling molecules that are used, and so they're connecting in some
you might have
ways.
I said bacteria as opposed to pep, but maybe you're getting into.
No, I was getting to the patentable, right?
Okay.
So the patentable is just that it's slightly different. So the natural form, the wild type, is the wild type. You can't patent a wild type. You have to somewhat alter it to be better bonding, or able to exist longer in the environment, or something else. You have to like do something to that protein or whatever. So the wild type is one thing, but you have to at least change something to patent it. You can't just patent wild type.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. So let's say, for example, a genetically engineered bacteria, which we do all the time, as in like I've probably created unique E. coli in the lab. Like I don't think that should be patentable, actually.
And probably hundreds of times, right?
Yes.
Right.
Dozens of times. I don't think that should be patentable, personally.
Yeah, I mean, we have to create. I mean, patents are monopolies that exist, for companies to make a product, and that's just kind of the thing, that's the reality. And they have to be protected. Otherwise, these companies won't make these products, and they won't like be able to sell them. So that's just kind of the problem. Like there's millions of dollars that go into genetically modifying a plant or an animal, or the salmon with growth hormone, or that's coming online, and or tons of different things. It's millions of dollars a month in these companies, and it takes years in order to do this kind of stuff. So it's a lot of money and a lot of investment. So that's why we've historically supported it.
Okay, and just to be clear, and you're that's okay for you.
I think yeah, it has to be. I mean, I think that I support like nationalizing some aspects of like public health works. Like for example, like vaccines. I think that there should be some type of like you know if we are going to prop up like these pharmaceutical companies, and we're going to protect them so much, in the production of that, I think that we should probably just nationalize the production of the vaccines, make it patent free, and make it global. So like it would just be better in general. But in general, yeah, I do support patents, because that's how companies are created.
Fair enough.
I would actually say that technology is getting to be within reach for a small independent researcher with minimal amount of funds. Greg, probably you and I together could find enough funders to create our own mRNA-based vaccine. Right?
I mean, no. I mean, there's no way. There's no way. I mean, maybe.
No. I actually no. I'm not saying we have to go through an approval process.
Yeah.
I'm saying outside the approval process, that's the expensive part.
Oh,
but just to come up with
to actually do it.
Say that,
I could bathtub.
Yeah,
I could
we
bathtub.
Could create a vaccine. You and I could bathtub engineer
Mm-hmm.
a vaccine, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So
100%.
And then we can sell it to people, but why can't we? Because there's rules against that, right?
Yeah.
So. Right, but there's also the biohacking sort of. If you don't get this, there's a really big part of the subset of America. There's many people, like bodybuilders, have always been one of those people. Athletes always trying to get the best performance. If they thought somebody out there like you or I was producing something that made them run faster, or metabolize better, or recover better, or build more muscle faster, that we couldn't put that out there, independent of getting approval from the FDA and sell it on the gray market? Yeah, sure, we could.
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing it a little bit with this, like the gray market, like all the stuff that's happening right now with compounding pharmacies and stuff. But it's a problem. I mean, you can have a lot of contaminations and stuff that happen in those. So it can be tough. I mean, in general, like I am very pro, regulation on this stuff. Like I think that I think that like we have to have like rules for the
I
mass
am too, but it's
production.
so slow, Greg. It's so slow. It takes like 8, 10, 12 years for something that can be seen to
Well,
work
longer now with the left staffing,
through
you know,
approval
the FDA and
process.
all that.
Yeah, I mean, but
There's that too, right?
I definitely, I mean, the cancer killing algae that we had, that I was a part of, that we had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer killing algae that they tried to spin out into a startup, and they went through the FDA approval process, and they got through like stage 2 or something, and it was just too much money. It was like billions of dollars, and they just couldn't do it. I think that in
Well, here's my
general,
question, Greg.
uh-huh.
Can people buy can people buy um, whatever that was used in that study on the gray market?
No.
Is there some lab producing it?
No, I mean, but you could have the sequence. You get the sequence somehow. You could like make it. You can genetically
Yeah.
modify it. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, but it's possible. I mean, it definitely is. I mean, but I mean, in general, I don't think that you have this problem, because like there's relatively, it's hard to do these things, and relatively few people know how to do this, and that's just kind of like a, you just don't see it. But in theory, it's possible. But I guess my broader point is like, if we want genetically modified organisms, and I do, and I'm an advocate of them, I think that you have to allow them to be patented. Like it's frustrating. Like there's nightmare scenarios, like stories of India, like in Monsanto. Basically, a bunch of Indian farmers didn't understand about the restore gene knockouts, and they didn't know that the seeds weren't going to be replanted, and then they went bankrupt, and there was huge problems with that. So in general, like I think you have to have a lot of education about it, obviously, but in general, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, patenting gene or a DNA sequence, that seems problematic. But
I mean,
whatever.
most plants are clonally propagated anyway, so you take like you don't necessarily.
I'm not talking about
use
plants. I'm just talking about like the principle of like patenting any genetic information, not exclusive. Like,
well, if it's a unique thing that's creating that protein, then like why would it? I mean, that has to be. You have to. That's the instruction manual to make your unique thing. Like, wouldn't you? That you evolved through directed evolution, or you created that didn't exist before, and that's what it is.
But then I'm not just limiting just to plants, as in like I think there's potential implications of like genetically modified humans as well.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll make it bigger. I mean, I can help you make it bigger. So DNA is sort of what can be expressed, but what is expressed depends on epigenetic markers. So what if you patented something which just came along as a biomolecule or a nanobot or something, and just changed methylation groups and yada yada expression patterns, and promoted these genes to be expressed, and that was all it did. It didn't change the DNA. It didn't do any of that. It just changed the markers. So it would be most often expressed. And so you'd go from being 1% expressed, because it's always there. Something's always going to express something. Even if it isn't promoted, it's going to be expressed a tiny amount, right? So from that, just existing on the chromosome to out there 100%. And even if it is something that's expressed even higher, even I'm in biohacking right now because I just turned 60. So I'm trying to stay young, right? So I'm doing all that sort of stuff. Can I lengthen my telomeres, right? So there's this peptide epitalon, which allegedly lengthens your telomeres, right? So is that a good thing? Could be. Could it also cause cancer? Could be.
Yeah.
We don't know yet. Why? Because there's not great amounts of studies on this.
I mean, in general, like I'm very libertarian on this. If it's yourself and your body and your own thing, I don't see the problem with allowing people to experiment on themselves. Like as a scientist, I would
Yeah,
experiment
I
like
just did
with
14 days of a Pidlon.
yeah,
So maybe I'll live longer, maybe I won't. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. I mean, I think that like I wouldn't trust any scientist that wouldn't do their own experiments that or their medicine that they're creating on themselves. You know what I mean? So like in the same way, like I think that, you know, for that cancer killing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, if I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and I wasn't getting like access to you know, medical services or whatever, I would definitely whip up that algae and I'd create that immunotoxin and I'd definitely be using it, you know? So um
Heard.
you know, I mean, I'm very
You know how to make it. You can make
yeah,
it. So why not?
yeah. I'm very libertarian in that point, but that's only because it's only that one person, that one thing. Um, you know, they're like environmental, you know, environmental regulations that are long lasting, reaching into multiple biomes. So that's where I think that's when we're protecting public health, when we're protecting public spaces, protecting the environment for people coming after us. I think that's where we should absolutely be like heavy handed. Brian, what do you think?
Um, I was just working my way through that article.
Okay, nice.
Um, yeah, and I'm almost done. I'm actually, you know what? Just come back to me
So
because
Greg,
I
Okay,
am almost done. Then I can give you
perfect,
my full opinion on
all right,
this.
perfect, cool.
perfect. So Greg, my question is, when you say heavy-handed, how heavy-handed do you mean?
I mean, I think that we should have like, you know, really strict penalties for companies that illegally dump. Like with Tesla, Tesla moved from California to Texas and like started dumping illegally like a ton, which is insane to me. Um, I think that we should be doing a lot more environmental monitoring. We should be doing a lot more wastewater monitoring for viruses. We should be doing a lot more environmental monitoring of water tables for fracking, for waste, for farm runoff, for like a whole host of things. You know, I think that we should absolutely be utilizing that. We have such good surveillance technology now. It's a crime that we don't do it, and then go from there. You know, actually enforce these laws. Now, obviously, because of this week with the executive order that removed the EPA's, they just literally said, "Oh, EPA doesn't realize that
Oh,
anymore that
yeah,
CO2 is a bad, they
climate
can be a
change is
bad
bad.
thing." Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah. But with that kind of reinstated, I guess, yeah, I mean, like it's hurting the future for humans to live on the planet. I mean, this is like it's a global genocide to not do whatever we can in order to stop um climate change. I mean, genuinely, like in people
By the
that
way,
are
I like that phrase, global genocide. I like
I mean,
that
it's the
phrase.
extinction of
Yeah,
humans. It's the extinction of humans as we know it.
it's a passive sort of like, yeah, I don't care enough to do anything about it.
So I think it's yeah, it's huge. I mean, it is. I mean, it's my single biggest animating issue. It's what I dedicated my life towards. So that's why I feel passionate about it. But um,
So I'm done.
Okay.
I got to the end. Very informative article, and some fun moments along the way. Fun. I mean, by that I mean like depressing in the political sense. But
Yeah.
you know me. That means fun to me. that equals fun to me. But it's it's quite interesting. So first of all, they go through a bit of history, and let's see if I can find it. Yeah, okay. Um, so like corporate, it goes on this tangent about the Trump administration, right? And it says many of those groups and companies had been large financial backers of Trump, meaning agricultural businesses. Um, and but Kennedy, RFK, downplayed any concerns that the president would avoid taking a hard position against pesticide companies because of that support. Quote, I've met every president since my uncle was president, and I've never seen a president like Trump Democrat or Republican, that is willing to stand up to the industry when it's the right thing to do. Kennedy said at a May 22, 2025 MAHA Commission meeting as the president sat smiling to his right. 3 months later, Kennedy's MAHA Commission published its final report, which contained no calls to further regulate pesticides. In fact, it called for the federal government to work with large agricultural companies to ensure public, quote, awareness and confidence in the EPA's current pesticide regulations. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services did not respond. Yeah. Many of the groups that expressed optimism of the initial report, there was an initial report like that RFK put out that, like, stated like, pesticides are linked to health risks, right? They were outraged over the change. So I mean, that's like a fascinating moment in and of itself, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I had seen a clip back then of RK saying this, right? And this part of Trump smiling like to his right, like that's what he always does. He, like, someone will go up to a podium, like gush about him, right? And he'll be standing like literally right behind them or sitting right next to them, and, like, with a big smile on his face. It makes him so happy, right? That they're lying for him. They're calling him such a great person, but he ends up betraying them. So that happens, right? One, Kennedy says, "Oh, he's going to be a big fighter for this," and then two, then he releases a report that softens their stance, the MAHA stance, the EPA stance, right? And then three, just the other day, Trump issues a statement trying to protect and expand the use of glyphosates. So that's just like completely fascinating and like completely like predictable of this individual. Well, I'll start there. There's another interesting part for this, but like what are your thoughts on that sequence of events?
Corey, I feel like I've been talking a lot.
Actually, I'm actually curious. But if science-ism want to weigh in.
I'll comment just on a side note. As far as like insecticides go, we're also like at this really big crux of a crisis moment, because as far as insects go, they're like 70% gone. Meaning that when I was a kid, I would drive my car and I would have insects impacted on my windshield, right? That'd be a normal thing. And from my car, the whole driver's grill, all that stuff. And that's not anymore true. I can drive really big distances and have like one or two insect impacts on my windshield. And this is actually a real phenomenon that insects in general are mostly gone. And this infects bird populations and all ecosystems. That this is huge. And it's because of agricultural and like stuff, like like their biggest dream when they wouldn't have insects on their plant acres, right? Their biggest dream is we don't have to worry about insects on our plants as we grow them from seeds to harvest. And the problem is insects. And if we didn't have insects, it'd be perfect. And it turns out, I think that's what they've been trying to do. But the bigger impact is that we don't have insects, not just over plant fields, but just in general, right? And so they could have beat the insect thing by maybe using other animals that eat the insects that are problems, like someone eats aphids. Great. We love that. Let's make those little animals grow on our crops so they eat the aphids and we get beneficial aspects of that. But they didn't go that route. They went to just not make insects be able to reproduce or something like that. So anyway, we're at this crisis moment that our ecosystem is under stress because we've removed insects.
Okay. Yeah, I agree, man.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it's a huge problem. Like the insect population is so important to all environmental health in general. I mean, it's we need them for.
This wasn't a United States number, Greg. This was a nation globally number of across reporting nations. And it's the same exact stats. The insect population is 30% of what it used to be.
Yeah, it's really bad. Well, the science system, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. I'm just gonna let someone else up. Thank you for coming up and for asking the
Thanks for
questions. I
being here.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Dina tried to come on last week, and um, she had she's a RN and interested in climate change and stuff, so it's cool. But I think, hi Dina, thanks for coming on.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I love your show. I listened last week.
Oh, thank you.
Talking about glyphosate and that sort of thing. It's there's a direct link to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and to think that Trump is completely doing away with the EPA is just, it's horrifying. It's horrifying. I know that Elon Musk, Texas is a perfect ground for Trumpism, because Elon Musk, with building SpaceX and that sort of thing, they have a permit to dump like 210,000 pounds of their waste in Texas farmlands, and this water is turning black. So you think about it, that's going into our aquifers, that's going into our water systems. And if you don't have a water filter, you're crazy, because there's no telling what's leaching in there, not to mention all of the pharmaceuticals that people, there again, wastewater is seeping in. It's horrendous. RFK is a joke. I'd love to get on a conversation with you about mRNAs and other things, but right now you're on a different topic.
That's
so
okay. Yeah.
If you want to drop me down and bring me back up later, great.
Okay, Dina, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Prime, on your point, I just wanted to talk like real quick, address it. I think the question, and people have been quote mining his old Twitter accounts and trying to look at all the anti-glyphosate stuff that he said over time, and then now he's like saying it. I think that these huge, like, it's Bayer now. Bayer owns Monsanto, and there is a huge problem with these companies, like in all the farms, like family-owned farms basically don't exist in the United States anymore. It really is like these huge farmer conglomerates, and we desperately do need to like try to break up some of this stuff. I do think that we need like more competition in the market, absolutely, and I think that it's just obvious to me that like RFK is lying right now, right? He's lying to people. He is trying to get as close to power as he can, and he's just saying whatever he needs to say right now in order to keep and stay as close to power as possible. So you have just a motley rotating crew of lobbyists now coming in because they know that the HHS has no teeth, and the EPA has no teeth, and it's really dangerous. I think like the stuff that's being approved right now with the FDA, I'm really worried about it. The PFAS pesticide that was approved had under normal conditions. I checked it out. I looked up the PDF, the actual report that they had. Under normal spraying conditions, it was actually like it was lethal amounts for honeybees, so it's like, so what they had, and it was exactly what I was talking about. And now they recommended 2 separate sprays at different hours in order to avoid the honey, the pollinators. And it's like, man, we already are having like colony collapse disorder. We're having huge problems with pollinators. So it's like, again, it's just I'm so wary of the things that are being passed right now too.
Yeah, I think our institutions are, well, I should say our, because I'm not American, but what I used to consider world leading institutions, I think they're in shambles now.
Or didn't you? You should watch the Super Bowl, man. You are an American.
No, you don't want to get me started on football. I hate football, and I advocate for banning football, even Canadian football.
Canadian, North, Middle, South America. We're all central. We're all Americans now. Bad Bunny reinstated it all. Prime, what were you gonna say? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine. just one last point on this article, and it's a good article. I'll repeat the title of the article for people who might have come in afterwards and are curious as to what I'm reading from. But before then, there's a section. This is Trump's Solicitor General. He wrote an amicus brief to the Supreme Court. This is about they're going to Supreme Court to ask that federal labeling laws invalidate state level lawsuits. So, in case you don't understand, the states are trying to put labels on Roundup and other pesticides, right? Like particularly Roundup. They're like, hey, this has a cancer risk, right? And then they're fighting this. One, I don't know why it necessarily needs to be fought. I mean, one, like that doesn't mean even if it is a hazardous chemical, well, then it's an industrial chemical that farmers would still need for to do their thing, right? I think now I know why they're now that I think about it, why I say this. The reason why they're probably fighting back against this is not actually because of what happens on farms, because farmers are still probably going to use it. Like as we discussed before, the business, right? The economy, or the incentives point to them just using these chemical pesticides. It's actually probably because of residential use, because people use it. They spray Roundup, like they used to have commercials for people doing that, right? So I'm guessing that's why they don't want to have like a big cancer, a big cancer label on it for that reason. But in any case, right? So let me just read this portion. It says, after careful scientific review and assessment of hundreds of thousands of public comments, EPA has repeatedly determined that glyphosate is not likely to be carcinogenic in humans, and the agency has repeatedly approved Roundup labels that did not contain cancer warnings. Okay, and the next paragraph says, however, in one of these studies, the EPA has often cited in claiming pesticides are safe was recently retracted due to concerns about its authorship and potential conflicts of interest. The report, published in 2000 by the scientific journal Regulatory Toxicology and Pharmacology, claimed Roundup, quote, does not pose a health risk to humans, end quote. The report has been the foundation for numerous other studies, court cases, and policy decisions. The journal retracted the study last year, noting that court cases had revealed that Monsanto employees had contributed to the study. Quote, this lack of transparency raises serious ethical concerns regarding the independence and accountability of the authors of this article and the academic integrity of the carcinogenicity. Thank you. Sorry. Studies represented. The retraction stated. So there's Trump administration is fighting putting cancer labels on Roundup. At the same time, one of the studies, I'm sure there's others, but at least one of the studies, and according to this article, it's a foundational study, used to say Roundup is safe, apparently had Monsanto employees, as a part of this, right? Contributing to the study. And we I know that. I mean, this is an old study. This is from 2000, right? So like a quarter of a century later, we apparently found out because it was retracted last year, 2025. We find out that there was corporate involvement, right, from the parties specifically going to be affected by this. And so last thing I'll say about this like series of events is exactly the type of thing that like birthed MAHA in the first place, right? That people would see articles like this, right? They would just like hear on the news, right? They would talk to others, and they would just hear about like this like level of like corruption. They're both on the governmental level, right? Like as we were just talking before, in terms of like the people who are like donating to politicians, donating to Trump here, and then also in terms of science, right? Where science gets adulterated, or at least the appearance of adulteration, because it's possible that the study is still accurate, right? Just that Monsanto employees happen to be signed up on it, right? Doesn't actually invalidate that part, but still the fact that it was hidden, that we didn't know about it, right, undermines its credibility from the start. people take in these messages, right, even passively, and then there's a big crisis like COVID, right? They're forced to deal with our current state of health, right? The health industry, right, within the country, and then they're like, well, it's all rotten. It's all rotten, and so like I gotta look for anyone who's gonna be my champion, right, to clear out the bad guys, right, to drain the swamp. Corey and I, we have a friend who was talking about this last week, talking about like how he's a Republican. I was so happy that Trump is draining the swamp, but we see the swamp is here. The swamp is always here.
Yeah.
Like so, this effort, right? This like groundswell, like of people who actually really wanted to do good, right? Like even if like the anti-vaxxers are there, like let's put them aside for a second, right? Still, like the principles behind it all make sense, right? But even now they're being betrayed because the swamp has actually never been taken care of, right? The swamp monster Trump is still in charge.
Yeah, so I actually don't disagree with anything that you said, and I agree. Like I've been sort of also going through the article, and I also like went over the part that you just read of like, yeah, that does not look great in terms of Monsanto being involved or Monsanto employees being involved in that study, and also as you said, only coming out or coming to light, a quarter of a century later, like that is optically bad, but as you also, I think, correctly said, that doesn't necessarily invalidate the study. But I understand like the skepticism. I'm like, yeah, that undermines, let's say, well, it undermines academia to a certain extent, and also, just undermines trust in these institutions. But like, it's really difficult, at least in my mind, because okay, very often, even just taking this case of Roundup or glyphosate, like. They should have been transparent, but it would actually make sense to me that you would have in principle like researchers from Monsanto involved in a study like this, because they're probably best suited to like at least consult of like how to design a study, or maybe like giving information about like what levels of the glyphosate is in their products that they make, because like you want to design a study that actually is relevant to how it's used in the real world. And so you want to know information about the products. And it would make sense that maybe you want to consult Monsanto employees like, hey, like I don't actually know if it's reported, but like, what amount or what concentration of glyphosate is in your whatever Roundup. If you don't know that information, you probably can't design a study all that great, I would imagine. And so that it makes sense to me. But like, yeah, it should have been, that should have been transparent. And also, in that vein, or like expanding on that, where like for FDA approval, like, or rather when a pharmaceutical drug is approved by the FDA, like it's the drug companies that are submitting the data, right? And that doesn't and I'm sure there's much more stricter guidelines in terms of how a trial is designed that can be submitted to the FDA, but it's like the company itself submitting the trial data to the FDA does not inherently undermine the trial data. So the FDA doesn't say, well, we can't trust your trial because you're the company that ran it, type of thing. But again, I still understand. Well, that's actually one of the reasons why, without getting too deviated in the conversation, but that's one of the reasons why, let's say, I'm definitely not super pro IP, because like this prevents, let's say, other companies or other people from studying patented things. I've actually encountered this in some companies of like, if I want to actually on my own, if I happen to be a wealthy person, I just wanted to like study a pharmaceutical drug and actually knew how to make it. I had the lab resources to make this drug, or let's say it was a protein. Okay, this pharmaceutical drug that's a protein. I have all the skills, and if I had access to a lab, I can probably synthesize a pharmaceutical protein drug, but I can't do that due to IP. I couldn't actually like study it because that's a patentable thing, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not super pro. One of the reasons, but I think that's a major thing for me.
Just quickly, just in case for people who, because I promised to do this. If you came in late and don't know what article I've been reading from, it's from Investigate Midwest. It's called "Pesticide Use and Cancer Risk Rise Together Across America's Heartland." So, go Google that. It's a good article. Read it for yourself, and make your own
It is a
decision.
good article.
But I'm sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Greg.
great. Yeah, exactly. That you basically have you have consultants from Monsanto that would be answering questions on broad use and that kind of thing, to make sure that are you just dissolving in water, how are you spraying and applying it so that it's actually applicable to real world scenarios. I mean, the thing with patents is you get a monopoly on it, but then you also in in turn is that you have to make it public. So what that patent is it's going to be public knowledge what that patent is, so that you could definitely create the patent item, or buy it and then test it. But it's just but that's the kind of the nice thing about patents, is that you can know what something is once it is patented. And that's also why Coca-Cola or whatever isn't actually patented, because then they would have to actually say what it is. So it is interesting. So I'm curious how you guys feel about switching now to the mRNA. So that there's two big stages, steps that are happening. Obviously, the South Carolina outbreak of measles is exhausting. It's really sad. We started covering this when it happened back in I think it was October or something, and it was two high schools that had unvaccinated exposures to in the hundreds, and we've been watching it grow up, and now it's 800 now, and it's awful. And now you have basically kiddos that are completely preventable having lifelong problems. So basically there's this story, this mom of the 7-year-old that is hospitalized with brain swelling from the measles, saying I would still wouldn't have given my son the vaccine. So
yeah, there's some wild quotes from that parent, more or less thinking this is all in God's plan type of thing, or God has a plan for my child.
Disgusting. I mean, it's they have encephalitis, so it's basically swelling and inflammation in the brain because of measles. And I just can't. He's. I just it just highlights how this is preventable. This person does not need to be going through this procedure, in terms of having measles being exposed to them, and this wouldn't be acceptable in if we were just allowing these people to expose their children to harm with firearms or anything else. But the idea that this unvaccinated kid now has to, without their consent, the kids are not consenting to be unvaccinated and to having to go through this, and these parents are forcing this on their children, which is why if you are unvaccinating your child or not vaccinating your children, you are a bad parent, in my opinion. You are, by definition, exposing them to undue harm. And this is exactly the problem. Then we're going to see more of these, not less. And it's so sad.
Yeah, I agree. I do, as I alluded to in some of the quotes, I do want to read maybe the small paragraph that I think is pretty wild. Where the 7-year-old boy, so quote, he's pretty much as if he was paralyzed. His devastated father, 41, told the Independent in a phone interview from his son's hospital bedside. Ethan's parents decided not to immunize him against measles, as they did with his 3 other brothers. 3 out of 4 of them contracted measles. Still, despite Ethan's ordeal, his mom stands by their decision. And quote, we're not blaming God for this, said 35-year-old Christina. Yes, it hurts. Of course, it hurts. But God has chosen Ethan for a reason. God is doing something. And we're going to glorify his name regardless. And quote continues, and we wouldn't change it any other way, the mom continued. If I knew this could be the outcome, I still wouldn't have given my son the vaccine. I think that's pretty wild.
Yeah, man, I think it's like I think that he is being used as an example of the dangers and how awful this is. I mean, the thing is we have to we should be mounting, and they were, the epidemiology report that we were watching from South Carolina did talk about how they were opening up MMR vaccine shot locations basically to the public so that they could get free vaccines. So no, that was good. I think it's just there is no answer from Maha in regards to this, right? There is no answer in regards to the actual diseases that are spread by these viruses. They just don't have any answer to them. They don't think that these viruses cause these diseases, then that they don't think that they're serious, so that they only focus on the vaccine side effects. And now when people have actual complications from these diseases, where are they? Where are they? Where is we need onions in on the feet, people. When this is happening, where is the like where's the tincture? These people are gone. They're not in the hospital room with these people when they actually have these cases. They have no answer for medicines for these people. But what they're going to do is these grifting, exploiting, truly awful people are going to go to these parents afterwards and say, you know what? They did stuff to them in the hospital though, and you're going to need I know what to do. You need to use ivermectin in order to try to remove whatever they did in the hospital to these kids. And they're probably going to sign up for it. That's what happens, is that whenever they go to the hospital and get medical treatment, if they somehow survive, they're somehow poisoned by the medical system, and now you need a subscription in order to pay for it. It's just wild.
Yeah, I'm sure an element of that will happen. But I do also think, very often, at least from what I see, let's say sometimes often in Twitter, like when cases like this are reported, like a lot of the response is like, oh, there's this whole rhetoric about how, high dose vitamin A, I believe, is, a treatment for measles, or it's like, not the vaccine, but high dose vitamin A. Or I can't remember exactly what, but I'm pretty sure it's vitamin A or like, this child, didn't have a healthy immune system. And like, if they were actually truly healthy, they wouldn't have had this complication, right? Which is obviously pretty crude to say. Where it's like, yeah, like no matter what the outcome is, if it's negative, like, well, the person wasn't healthy to begin with, so therefore, it's okay.
Exactly.
Reading from Wikipedia. In psychopathology, psychosis is the inability to distinguish what is or is not real. Examples of psychotic symptoms are delusions, hallucinations, and disorganized or incoherent thoughts or speech. What our friend Corey read from that mother, that's religious psychosis. And I think we just haven't like dealt with that directly. Now, like the reasons why people are, arrive at Maha are different, right? Like there's a coalition of these individuals, right? But this is one of them. This is religious psychosis. She cannot distinguish what is real, what isn't. It's interesting in the quote she says, like, well, like, yes, this has happened to our son, but we would never blame God, right? As if that was the problem. No, everyone is blaming you, right? Like people aren't talking about God. I mean, like maybe some people are, right? The other people are religious, but mostly, no. This is about you. And the fact that your son was unfortunate to be born to you, is this beautiful child, who is now at death's door practically, because of their actions. And part of it is that we don't actually deal with these this magical thinking, right? Now, magical thinking comes in many different forms, but the socially acceptable form is religion. It is.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think there's an argument to be made, like, to me, this is like either explicit or borderline like negligence of like a parent, like, because they say in the quote, even if they knew this would be the outcome, they still wouldn't have given, pretty much saying like, even if this were preventable, like I wouldn't do it anyways. And it's like, I think that's either again explicitly negligent or like borderline in that direction of like, pretty much you're presented like, oh, if this was preventable, would you prevent it? Well, that my answer is no. I wouldn't like how I don't know how that's not at least borderline negligent type of thing of like, I don't know, pushing it to the extreme of like, if this child was in a or rather if whatever the mother and the child were in a car accident and the child wasn't wearing their seatbelt, and like, and they were posed the hypothetical of like, well, if you were able to go back in time, would you put the seatbelt on your child? And the answer would be, and they answered no. I think everyone would say like that would be negligent.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Playboy, how's it going, man? For TikTok reasons, what's your age and who'd you vote for?
I'm 34 and I haven't voted yet.
Okay, cool, man. What's up?
I had a question. You know how we worry about going outer space? We usually go up, right?
Okay.
Like, right? What's underneath, bro? Like, what's down? Like, how about if we go like out into Earth, right? Like into the like heading towards the moon and Mars and all that. Like, have we ever tried going down? Like, what's down there?
I'm not an expert. I'm not sure that down really applies in space, but I've never been to space.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I've never been to space, so I can't say.
Right?
But
it's space, right?
Yeah, you can just go any direction.
Yeah, but I mean, have we ever focused on going down? Like all we look at is like up and like what's down.
I think maybe how you like. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, what he's talking about, like, is at least what I'm hearing from him, is the like, have we fully explored the Earth rather than like going into space?
No, not Earth, like not underwater.
Oh, not Earth.
Outside.
That's why I said I don't think down applies in space.
Yeah. So down doesn't apply in space. Like,
you don't think so?
I mean, I know so. It doesn't. Like, I mean, that's down requires a reference, right? Up, down, left, right. Those things are a reference, right? So up for me, right, I'd be pointing up, right? If you were in Australia, and you'd
like going towards the moon, like towards the moon, towards Mars, like towards planets, right? You're usually going you're going like up, right? Like you're outside of the Earth. No.
I mean, well, yes. I mean, yes.
You're going in a direction forward. You're going forward.
Yeah, you're moving away from Earth and maybe then towards Mars or something, right? But yeah, those are relational. But in terms of like within space, right? If you don't have a reference point, then up and down like don't necessarily mean anything, right? Like it depends on what you're moving towards. Yeah.
I was just like wondering, like, you know how they say like the back of the moon? I was like, what's like underneath Earth, like, you know?
Oh, that's an interesting like astronomical thing. So basically, the back of the moon exists. It's because like they're gravitationally locked. Like the moon is moving and rotating with the Earth, so that's why it doesn't like spin like freely. It's just that it's just locked with the Earth. So
we always see the same ugly face of the moon.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just smoking weed and I started thinking about it.
Okay.
I would have never guessed.
Nice, man.
I appreciate it.
Have a good one, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Well, back to the question at hand then. Yeah. Like I come from the stance, let me not hide my power level, that like I'm quite anti-religious in general. Maybe people would have guessed, but I want to make it clear what my stance is here. That doesn't mean that I don't think religion has things to offer, and that I don't think that people should have the ability to be religious, because I'm for free speech and for people to be able to do whatever they like with their lives, right? But like there is a cost. There is a cost to magical thinking. There is a cost when we live in a world where you can say that like, oh, an angel or a god spoke to me, right? And they told me to do X, right? Now, for most people, when they say that, they're what they're saying is like, I I came to a decision, right? Like I thought on something, and then like I came to a decision, or I'm following my intuition, and God is telling me to do this, but it's really just all me, right? And it's like fine, right? But at the same time, it hides other cases that are like actual mental illness, like actual fact, like yeah, someone actually, there's a voice in my head that actually did speak to me. Like it allows us to not actually properly address these things, and it hides um, and puts in positions of power people who are having like massive mental health crises that we would otherwise be able to see plainly. But like religion just gives them legitimacy, right? Oh, this is a real thing. As long as they couch it, right, in a familiar a delusion, right, a familiar framework, right, being the religion of the particular area, right? Well, then it's fine. Oh, of course, that makes sense. Yes, he was told by voices in his head that he should do X and Y, right? So, of course, why would you question that, right? If he just says, right, well, the ghost of Christmas past told me to do that, says the exact same thing, right? It was, oh, no, that guy's crazy, obviously. And so now we have a situation that our friend Corey laid out for us, where a mother, like, seriously is saying that yes, I'm going to deny my child care, right? And I would deny them care if I had the ability to do it all over again, because voices in my head told me so, right? And I don't want to make those voices mad. I don't want those voices in my head to think that I'm unfaithful or unloyal, right? And the worst part is that like it blends the lines. This is even worse. It blends the lines between people who are quote unquote mentally ill, meaning like they will have some sort of chemical imbalance or maybe some neurological deficiency, right? With individuals who have just been told these delusions are real, that like these commandments are real, and then like if you don't follow them, you'll suffer an eternal hellfire, right? So a person who is otherwise rational can actually end up doing the exact same thing that this person is doing. So yeah, actually, there's a problem with magical thinking. Yeah, actually, there's a cost to this, and this boy right now, he's suffering that cost.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And again, so this might sound heartless, but I'd be curious of like again. So this this boy is receiving a lot of care, as they should, and I view them, essentially as a victim of, as you pointed out, born to parents with poor judgment and magical thinking. But like then I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what they're. But let's say if there's some sort of, assuming there's a private insurance paying for this, I think the calculation would change. If like the coverage was denied, if like the insurance company said, "Well, you didn't vaccinate your child, so why would you pay for this preventable outcome?" I think that would change the calculation.
I mean, I am honestly like, I don't know. I think like I just hope that it gets, it has to get better, or else there has to be some type of way where like we have to like quarantine these sick people like away from people that did the due diligence and support public health, like so it's like we either make them, like deny them the healthcare so that they aren't going to the hospitals and infecting other people, or like, or make, or charge them more with like set up a triage area like away from the hospital. Like I don't want them like at the hospital. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy. There's other people that are getting chemotherapy, or that have genetic predisposition, genetic problems. They weren't born with a fully functioning immune system. Um, they've done the due diligence. They're masking, but it doesn't matter. You have someone that's coming in with measles, and it's just now the entire hospital is infected. And it's like, we just can't have that. We just can't be having that, and we can't be. We're making it way too easy for these parents to not vaccinate their kids. And you see on so many of these like grifting health wellness people. And I just found one. It got pushed to me on Instagram, and it was like someone was like, "Oh, they were talking about decreasing the amount of shots that kids get to take," and now it's like, and then every single comment on there is just, like, should be zero. Ugh, I can't believe that they even get any shots. It's just like the dogmatic fervor that these people have to just spread as much harm as they can, but through their selfishness is just unfathomable. And I don't think that, um, I think we should stop coddling them and start charging them full price. My healthcare shouldn't go up. My wife that works at a hospital shouldn't be exposed to measles because of these people. Like, it's just not fair. Like, it's not okay. And I don't know. I don't know what to do. I
Yeah,
don't know how far to go, but there has to be a change, or else something happens.
I agree. And and I would sort of further add, like, as you said, Greg, it has to get better. But unfortunately, I think the reality is, like, it has to get worse before it gets better. As in, there has to be more cases. Like, I'm not saying this is not what I want, but I think in order for people to learn the lessons, like, it seems like you have to have the bad outcomes. And also, like, as you said, and as I've alluded to, it's like these parents should have to pay for this child's health care, or, like, as I think we spoke about a few weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, or whatever. It was actually interesting to me to learn that, if I remember correctly, like, as part of the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, it was like, insurance companies could not deny coverage on the basis of vaccination status. So they can't discriminate, covering something based off of vaccination status. I think that something like that, like, has to change. I think once the insurance companies are granted the ability to do that, and parents like this are forced to pay, or they have to take that fight to the insurance companies, and then they have to, like, and the insurance companies are probably going to present them with the evidence of, like, here's all the scientific evidence that we have accumulated over decades and decades or centuries of, like, we know that vaccines like this are largely safe and effective, are pretty much, like, almost universally recommended. So if you're not taking it, and this is the outcome, that's on you. You should pay for that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is the social rub, where it's like, even if you got the personal exemption, you can't afford a $50,000 measles visit to the hospital. Like, that's how much it is. That's how much it actually is. Every single case. There's an Oregon study on their outbreak when it happened last year, is $50,000 per person for their healthcare system. Got a chatter that's, if the shots work, then it would affect you now, wouldn't it? That it would not affect you now, would it? Okay, so again, no vaccine is 100% effective. It's 97% effective for measles second shot. So that's good. But still, it's not fair to the 3% of people that did get their shot that are now infected. Two, a lot of people can't get vaccinated. They're either too young, so they're too young to get it, or they have some kind of genetic predisposition, or they have been vaccinated and their immune system is now compromised because they're getting chemotherapy drugs or something else, and now their immune system is wrong. So therefore, that's why, like, public health is important, and it allows liberty, and the liberty in the true sense of the word, so that people can and live a life without worried whether or not they have a genetic predisposition or something that they were born with that was going to infect their ability to go places, to go to supermarkets, to go to a football game, to go to the Olympics. then so it's absolutely it's imperative that public health is used. I mean, this anti-vaxxers, your logic is based on emotions and not sound reasoning. Okay.
Well, if they want to come up and talk about it, but I want to expand a little bit of like if this person is saying that oh, if their overall sentiment is like vaccines aren't effective, okay, well then they should be on board of like, okay, we give the insurance companies permission to deny coverage based off of vaccination status. As if their overall mentality is it's healthier to be unvaccinated, then again they should be on board of like let the insurance companies deny coverage based off of vaccination status. And I'm sure they'll agree to that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was trying to read his comment. The comment, the brain break is so hard on these people. It's really hard to understand what he's trying to say. But yeah, it's really not that hard, guys. Like the vaccines like are safe, they're effective, especially for measles. They're very good. There's nothing you've been lied to. There really is nothing to say other than that. Like there's you could die drinking too much water too. Do you ever really worry about when you drink water like, is this the day that I drink too much water and I die from it? It's like, no, dude, that's just not going to happen. Like, young healthy people are not losing their lives from vaccines. Young healthy people are losing their lives from viruses and diseases that they're caused by it. That's just the reality of what was happening. And people lie to you on the internet. I feel like I'm talking to my boomer parents. People lie to you on the internet. They create false things that people say, and they're trying to sell. And every single time, like when I saw this grifting crystal mommy, she was like talking about this every single time, guys. They sit there and they tell you that like the healthcare system's failed you, all this kind of stuff. Medicines are failed you, except for what can be found in my referral link, links in the
Link
bio,
in my bio,
guys.
people.
And you're like, oh my gosh. And they literally have like ivermectin kits there that you can buy. It's like, it's just unfathomable. It's truly brain breaking. Oh man. I do feel like there is a huge problem though in look, I think that the parents should be held accountable, and it's criminal negligence, and they should be going to at least have a fine, if not going to jail, like, because child protective services should be called on these people. Absolutely.
I think there's a case for that. That's why I brought up this negligent aspect.
Genuinely. I do think though, like, we have to do provide some type of child care or care to all these people. And that is the unfathomable thing about it, to be honest with you, because like we are literally telling 3% of healthcare workers now, you're gonna get measles because of this. It's like that's like, imagine being at a hospital right now, especially after you've lived through the pandemic. And a lot of the people that are in healthcare that work through the pandemic have PTSD. They have PTSD from that, how they were treated, how they were quarantined. They were basically, it was like an active service thing where they were dispatched to their hospital for 2 or 3 weeks, quarantined, couldn't see their loved ones. It was like a deployment, and now they are vilified in our culture because of MAHA and all this non-stuff. And then now those same people that MAHA and Republicans and stuff put down, we're asking them to go into the trenches a second time, a second deployment against measles that could wipe out their entire immune system, that could cause tons of the most infectious disease that we know of. Now they have to go out into there. It's just it's so sad. I mean, these people should be getting, honestly, they should be getting hazard pay. It should be like 10 times the amount, and we should charge the parents of these measles kids. It's insane.
Yeah, and again, to expand a little bit, I do find it funny in sort of a sad way of like, Trump is very quick to often talk about, third world countries and looks down upon third world countries. But like, does not having like, your measles status revoked move you in that direction?
Yeah, I mean,
like, once you get measles back and polio back, like, are you not like basically the countries that you're insulting? Basically.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it is. Um, the problem is that because of immune amnesia with the measles, it basically allows measles specifically kind of allows all these other things to come back. Because like, what happens? Like once you get infected with measles, you have to like get all your immune system back. Like I'm honestly I'm actually going to be because I think that I was born in 86, and I'm like that's right before, I don't know, right around the time 89 to 92 was um the last epidemic in the United States for measles, and that's when they changed to the two-course regimen. So I don't know. I don't have my vaccine card as a child, so I don't know if I got that second shot. So I'm gonna be asking for a blood titer for my PCP this week, just so I can see. Because I'm like I honestly want an MMR booster. I so just I mean, please guys, like think about that. But this is not going away, unfortunately.
And well, it's probably, I hope it doesn't. I hope I'm wrong, but it's probably just on the verge of like getting worse. Since like I think, generally speaking, like the cases that we're tracking, like just like we're always behind type of thing. Of like whatever numbers that there are now, there's probably so many more undocumented cases.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the community spread is absolutely happening, and it's like and it's out there, it's really easy. You have so many states now, I mean, that are that don't have herd immunity. So it's um so dangerous. Like the entire middle of the country basically is doesn't have herd immunity. So it's like it's very easy for it to go and spread, just like it did. We have the epidemiology reports from Canada. I mean, it spread primarily in Canada, and you can look at the Ontario one. It's very clear. It's the rural, unvaccinated places that spread these things, and um, the big cities have herd immunity, so that's not where like the primary cases are. It's the rural unvaccinated people that spread it for everywhere, and it's awful.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned, like, if I remember correctly, like last week, there were only like 7 states or a handful of states that actually have vaccination levels. Bless you. That have the vaccination levels that give herd immunity coverage, like are up to that 95%. Um, I could be misremembering.
Yeah, man, it's unfathomable, man. I mean, it's unfathomable. Like these people have no answer. They have no answer to this. Even Dr. Oz has to reverse course and be like, yeah, actually, like vaccine's safe and effective for last year when this was a problem. RFK was like, yeah, for the Texas outbreak, yeah, the MMR vaccine is actually pretty good. Um, Again, just it's just wild to me, man. It's wild. They don't have any answer to the actual diseases that they are causing to spread. It's just
You can only deny reality so long, right? Like even someone like, and I just don't even know, like, well, not that I have much respect for Dr. Oz, but like I don't know how he can associate himself with someone like RFK Jr. And like, yeah, even Dr. Oz can't deny the effectiveness of the MMR vaccine, and as you alluded to, neither can RFK. But like, yeah, I don't know how someone like Dr. Oz can like endorse or like work in conjunction with someone like RFK, who like undermines the whole medical field practically.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, the one of the physicians on that was a senator, Bill Cassidy. He was a hepatic liver doctor, and and one of the things that they're removing the vaccination for is a disease that causes hepatic cancer. So he's gonna be. It's literally like Ruth Bader Ginsburg 2.0, where this medical doctor spent his entire career trying to help people with liver disease. He becomes a senator and he spreads liver disease. He's going to go down in history for being the guy that actually allowed RFK to get out of the Senate subcommittee, because he was promised it was promised that no, he wasn't going to infringe vaccine access, and it was going to be access to everyone. So, and him and Susan Collins, apparently they're just pretty easy to win over. You just kind of like a wink and a nod, and they're like, okay.
Yeah, and just the lack of knowledge on basic, not that I expect them to have this knowledge, but yeah, the talking point of, even just in the article itself, like, and the mother also says, like, why do we have to expose all these kids to these shots, or why do they're exposed, because like the rhetoric is like, oh, we're exposing these children to all these chemicals in the vaccines, but like that pales in comparison to just like all the antigens that you're exposing yourself to just by eating food. Okay, there's more antigens in the food that you eat by many orders of magnitude than anything that you get in a vaccine.
Point, Corey. That is such a dude. Kids are so dirty, and the fact that they put their mouths on everything. I genuinely, as a microbiologist, I feel like there's like, honestly, I think it might be an evolutionary thing where kids like put things in their mouths in order to seed their gut microbiome. That's just my hypothesis. I have nothing to back that off, but I really do feel like how much they just pop everything in their mouth. You're like,
you
what?
would think evolution would select that type of behavior. I don't disagree with you, but it's a working hypothesis.
It's the opposite. It's in order to create a diverse gut microbiome, in my opinion. That would be the hypothesis. But because you're like at the park and stuff, and you're just like, there's just rocks or something, random rocks, and then all of a sudden you're just like, get those out of your mouth, like, because you're worried about choking. You're not worried about like what's on them. And then think about every single there's going to be millions of bacteria on them, right? And fungus and all these kind of things. And then each of those microbes is going to have a different part of it that's going to be which is what an antigen is, which antigen is a part of a microbe that your body can form an immune response to. So we're talking like orders of magnitude more, like that you're like thousands just in one rock that they put into. And in the last 30 years, our vaccine technology has gotten so good to the point where it actually, the amount of antigen you expose to now is so low.
Vaccines have never been better.
Yeah. That partly because of the adjuvants and the small amounts of aluminum and stuff allows basically a cupping effect where you basically slough off and it kind of like unbinds a small amount of antigens over time, so your body can actually mount a better immune response to a smaller amount of antigens. So like they're incredible. And I guess we should end on this, the mRNA technology, like this, talking about how it's never been better. The mRNA platform, that is how molecular biologists are just loving how to deliver nucleotides into the body. Basically, the big question was, why haven't we switched to other things to this mRNA vaccine platform? And sure enough, Moderna did the research and was like, yeah, our flu efficacy is 20% better. But their data was never actually reviewed by the FDA for whatever reason. Obviously, because of obviously, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It has to do with the $500 million that they pulled, HHS pulled in studying this mRNA lipid nanoparticle delivery platform. Well, they reversed course this week. They're saying that they were actually gonna start using it, reviewing it to possibly bring it to market. So that's a technology that you have paid for as an American that you have created with your tax dollars, and then now we are going to be able to use that as a technology in order to improve public health.
And for a moment in time, it was championed by Trump before, because as in he was, for a small window, he was like pro because like that was, that's part of Operation Warp Speed. Yeah. But like once he realized that his demographic that supports him aren't on board with the vaccine, he backed off like immediately. Like, oh yeah, I can't take credit for that. And
best thing he's done ever.
Yeah, and like I have no problem giving credit for that. But then I would like bring up the talking point. Then like do MAGA Republicans, do they consider Operation Warp Speed waste, fraud, and abuse? Like
Doge it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They do. They hate it. They think it's like they don't. They think they were mad about it, but not mad about it enough, obviously, to not vote for him. But it was him like the swamp, the old Trump 1 swamp, kind of like taking over, and he didn't actually support it, even though he gets vaccinated every year. When they report that he is the healthiest person alive, and he's actually 18 and has managed to reverse aging. They always say he gets his COVID and his flu booster every year. So.
I believe every 18-year-old gets bruising on the hand from too many handshakes.
Yeah, exactly. He's so strong. He accidentally bruised his own body.
True masculinity.
Prime, what do you think, man? What do you think about the mRNA, the vaccine reversal, or any like the technology for like the using it as a technology, a platform?
Sorry, me?
Yeah, I was just trying to get you in because I was just asking your thoughts on the mRNA technology, or Moderna using it now, or I mean, do you think that it's a good thing because it's a highly, like, the efficacy is higher, or do you think that it could be a bad thing, but because now it's tainted these other vaccines that maybe people are like, oh, I don't like this new vaccine technology, I want the old stuff, could kind of like taint people's, I'm not anti-vaccine, I'm against this vaccine kind of people.
Yeah, people be stupid. So like, we can't be worried about calling their feelings, right? As far as I'm aware, unless the science changes on this, then my opinion will change. But as far as I'm aware, these things are safe. This seems like a breakthrough that can have like some amazing effects, can really help people develop new therapies. Yeah, I want more companies and more places like working on this, pushing the science and coming up with great new products, and more things to annoy anti-vaxxers, right? We can't be in a position where we allow their fears. And I guess I can't say this for sure. Like, I don't know, like, what this movement looks like on an international level. I would imagine like it really is an American concentrated thing, but I can't be sure about that. But like for the rest of the world, like imagine them being held back by just like a very small population of less than the brightest bulbs here in the United States. And imagine them like watching their loved ones suffer because of that, right? And we say, well, we didn't want to expand it because RFK and was it Jenny McCarthy, if she's still doing this?
I think she is.
We're mad about it. I thought she got out of it, but I don't know.
Now that she was, and then she now she's like, oh yeah, I'm the original one now, actually. So she's back on it.
I mean, she is a pretty original anti-vaxxer. I can give credit for that. Sadly,
I can't imagine having an autistic son and being so mad about that you cause public health harm for millions of people. I can't imagine that.
Well, I mean, I understand it. I mean, when I say understand, I mean like I can sort of understand the psychology of like a frustrated parent looking for something to blame, not having answers, and they'll go to that as an answer for them. Obviously, I don't think it's a good thing, and I think they're explicitly incorrect. Um, but I try to at least somewhat understand the mindset.
I mean, I think in general, like, the crystal mommies are they're trying in their best effort in order to protect their children, right?
Yes.
I do think that is the case. That is how they are understanding the propaganda that is being sent to them. Um, it, and I don't understand how we like get to them that they're being lied to and taken advantage of, and that care that they have for their kids is being like taken and exploited for profits by this naturalist movement that is like orders of magnitude more profitable than the pharmaceutical companies and corrupt, and here they are like making money off of it hand over fist, off of making money off of people getting sick. And I don't know like where the regulation comes in. I don't know how we like stop this madness. I mean, I think it has to do with the algorithms and having trying to like stop that kind of stuff. But um, I don't. It's infuriating.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when I came across this story here. Well, I mean, a range of emotions. It's heartbreaking that again, this child is the victim of being born to not so great parents or negligent parents. But then yeah, the frustration that like this was preventable, and well, also the anger and upset like this is almost certainly preventable. And
100% it is.
this kid probably is going to have almost certainly like permanent effects for the rest of their lives. That
Mhm.
again, almost certainly didn't have to happen. And the parent is like, no problem in doubling down as
I
well.
can it's just it is not like I can't imagine your child is sick in the hospital and you're more worried about not losing street cred on Instagram for your nature mommy like groups. Like that's unfathomable to me. It's
That's
so
that's super interesting what you just said there, and I hadn't considered that like in my little rant about that individual, right? That like like how much social pressure is. Wow, that's actually really good. This is a really good insight that you just mentioned here, because like um yeah, there is a social pressure that exists now that wouldn't have existed before. Like, hey, you're like, okay, you are a Christian scientist, or you are I don't know, some otherwise a person otherwise uh, like incentivized not to engage, regular modern medical technologies. In any case, right? You didn't do it, and a person you loved is hurt, right? Now you have to make a decision. Well, previously, before social media, no one would really know, right? Unless you like reported it. You let them know. Like you could just keep this a secret, and then you can go back to pretending that these modern medical miracles didn't save your loved one's life. That's the thing that's happened many times before, I can assure you. Um, but now with social media, like people are far more clued into your life, right? And so like it's far more easier for them to figure these things out. And now it's like, well, I can't back out. Like like my identity is tied with this, and so I gotta go forward, right?
mhm.
Especially if it's someone else who's being hurt, not me being hurt, right? Um, but even then, sometimes if it is you being hurt, they're like, yeah, I like the embarrassment is just literally too much. Like how many of these individuals who got COVID and like were avoiding any sort of treatment, like or did so because they had they had literally already lost um uh, uh, uh familial relationships over this, right? That
Mhm.
like during the height of COVID, there was a big fights with family. How many of them like had already alienated the people in their lives, and so no, there is no going back, right? And so of course I can't take this thing. Because then I look like an absolute fool.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any like disgust for their own child because it's like, ugh, now you like all these other kids got measles and they're not in the hospital, but you did. Like, what's wrong with
Mm.
you? Like, why is your body not pure? Like, why didn't your immune system like handle it? And but yours did. Like, what's wrong with you? Because that's their whole thing, right? Terrain theory is that you're like too stressed. That's why, like the kid like had like a hard test that week, and they were really worried about it, and that's why they were getting infected with the measles that wound up in the hospital, not the virus. No, of course not. It's you. You're the problem, which is why it's always this. What are you thinking about? And everyone has an immune system, kind of nonsense that they push. So I'm
Yeah, I
sure.
trust my immune system.
Exactly. But hey, this kid's immune system messed up. This kiddo, like, they did something wrong, so they're obviously. So I wonder if there's like some shame in that as a parent, and like kind of like madness with their kid, which is, I honestly wouldn't be surprised. It's such a clout goblin ecosystem. They're so entrapped into their algorithms. It's unfathomable, man. It's just I can't. Uh, it makes me so mad, like watching these cases go up, and I don't know. And I just know that at any other time, any other administration, this would be a national emergency. You'd have national emergencies going on with like MMR, a huge vaccine. This is what happened in 1989 to 1992. You had a huge. They changed the entire vaccine schedule over it because of it. You'd have each of the states like convening the epidemiologists in order to try to stop this, issue quarantine warnings, having people stay home. But
A
in right.
massive coordinated response.
Yeah, yeah, this is huge. Measles is one of the ones that you freak out about because it's so contagious. It's the most contagious, and it wipes out your immune system so that you basically are susceptible to like the bacteria in your throat invading your lungs.
Is that
And
a forever thing or a forever harm, or is it can you recover from that?
you can recover from that. It takes
Okay.
long time, but the encephalitis actually, that the kid is facing, that can actually be like a longer term thing that can happen like years later. So there is like some association with that's bad. So
I mean, like his brain is swelling. My understanding is, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong. His brain is
yeah,
swelling, so it's pressing up against his skull. So
yeah,
there could be all kinds of issues, like lingering after that, all kinds of neurological damage, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
there's almost
yeah,
certainly some permanent and nothing is out of the question, but for something like that, there's almost certainly like permanent damage long term. I don't think there's any chance for this child to make 100%. Not any chance, but I think the odds are against this child making a fully 100% recovery. Is like they're going back to pretty much like how they were before going through this. At least I would not put money on that. Well, I hope it does. I want nothing. I would want this child to make 100% full recovery, but I think the
Yeah.
odds are stacked against this child, unfortunately.
yeah. It's very frustrating. I think, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just, other than Trump getting on board with it, and even maybe even still then, maybe even still like with the him getting on board with it, it might not work because Operation Warp Speed didn't change a lot of their minds. He gets vaccinated, didn't change a lot of their minds. Like I don't know how to change it.
Well, if he gets
Um,
vaccinated, then by that strict criteria, according to MAGA and MAHA, he should not be healthy. Since if you're healthy, you don't need to
yeah,
get vaccinated.
yeah, yeah, exactly. There you go. I mean, yeah, I think one of the big things that we have to do is like infest these right wing natural algorithm people. Like we have to swap and infest some of this like stuff, and I think like we need more people that are going over there and trying to like have hard discussions about it and kind of exposing these people, because it's just not working. That like the algorithms are so good. Like my Instagram is just a bunch of like science communicators and um physicians now, and I'm like, what in the world is happening? Like, I feel like I'm such in a bubble on my social media, and I hate it now. I don't know what to do.
We're all in a bubble, but yeah,
I know, man. I want to like reset it and just kind of like, and I actually did try to completely reset it and just put in like Republicans, MAGA, MAHA, RFK Jr., yeah, natural remedies, all that kind of stuff. And even still, the algorithm's like, nah, nah, you're good. So,
but yeah, that whole natural movement, which has been around for forever, but yeah, it is like open any biology textbook, open just about any whatever life science textbook. Like nature is harsh. Like
yeah,
reality
man.
of nature is super harsh. I don't want to be out in the wild. And like the natural things that happen are not fun at all, based off of what I have read.
50% of kids used to die before puberty. 50%.
Yeah.
That's the childhood mortality rate. Like people didn't name their kids before they were 5 years old. Like, and it was during the mid 1900s when it really changed, and that was the antibiotics and vaccines. And that came along at the same time as germ theory, us understanding that there is this whole unseen microbial world that has a huge impact on our lives. And we started washing our hands. Physicians used sterile technique, vaccines, which obviously targets them and it builds our immune system naturally by exposing our immune system to antigens. It all like plays a huge part of how we understand the world. And now people want to abandon that for what? Like what in 10 years? Like describe to me. Like Thomas Godfrey coaching refuses to get into here, by the way. I've requested him like a bunch of times and he's a coward. It's
Sounds
just
about right.
anti-vaxxer in chat that's doing life coaching and scamming people and refuses to come in and to be a guest. It's just like, where in 10 years, where are they going? Like what is the goal? Where do they see in the United States in 10 years from this nonsense? Where?
I don't want to see that place. I'm going to do whatever I can on my end to ensure that they don't get their way. Because I can't emphasize enough. Nature is harsh. I don't want to be in. I want clean drinking water. I want regulated food.
God, Corey, you're such a diva.
I know.
Clean drinking water, regulated food, smog-free air. Like, I mean, honestly, I don't know how they handle things in Canada, right? But we're more down to earth, right? We're not complicated folks. We don't ask for these things, right? We don't these luxuries. We live a simpler life.
You're absolutely right. But choosing between like a cup of water from like a lake or like a cup of water from my tap, I'm going with the tap. Like no matter what, 100% of the time. I want to go to the dentist to have my teeth cleaned. Okay, is that natural, unnatural? Like, do these people never go to the dentist? Because like I think that's a pretty modern thing and unnatural. Nature is harsh. I cannot emphasize that enough. Nature is getting infected by bacteria, getting infected by viruses.
Yeah, exactly. Heather, how's it going?
Good. Thomas Godfrey coaching. He's the flying pyramids guy. I just asked him. I was like, "Hey, wait, are you the dude about the flying pyramids?" And he said yes. That explains why everything he said. It's just like,
gotcha.
He says a lot of words, not saying any, but there's like zero meaning. But anyway,
okay.
I'm really proud of that I figured it.
Dang, that's a pull from
a blast from our past.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Heather.
But anyway, that was like so fun. Okay.
Nice. We had the conspiracies, guys. It's just it's full throated on TikTok. It is wild. Anyway, guys, we're coming down to the end of it. Is there any like closing statements or anything that you guys like wanted to say or?
Not on my end, other than can't reiterate enough. No natural for me. I want to be as unnatural as possible.
I mean, I guess I would say that, there's a lot of magical thinking, and I think society is better off overall when we rid ourselves from these things, right? Um, there are other ways that we can find to value the lives of others and to organize around that, which is a good thing that religion provides for us. There are other like philosophies we can adopt on a mass scale to care for others. Um, but this magical thinking, I mean, it just allows for this. It just allows for this. I mean, you've seen it. If you happen to be a religious person yourself, you've seen it in your church, right? You've seen people like say crazy things to you, um, and like, but that's just kind of accepted, right? You've noticed it. But this happens on a mass scale, a sociological scale, that like where many people are making many of these irrational decisions, and they push us to disastrous outcomes like banning abortion, for instance, right? Just one example off the top of my head, but there's many others. Oh, even talking about the earth and like wanting um, smog-free air, right? Some of the reasons behind um, individuals, pushing against um, environmental reforms is because they think, well, like God has given us dominion of the earth, right? And it's within our ability, it's within our right to extract from it. God will take care of it at the end. Or in another way of sometimes look at it is that like I simply won't be here. I'll be in paradise whenever it all falls apart, and so it's not my problem. In any case, this magical thinking allows for all of that, and so I think it'd be better off for society on an individual level, a sociological level, on the national level, right? Because sometimes our politicians will just act on these things too, right? Um, that we do something about that, right? So we don't have tragedies like this little boy, right, suffering a massive medical injury, right, brought to him specifically by his parents, who promised to do it again to any of the other children if they got the chance to do so.
Exactly. That's the sickest part. The just like doubling down and like I can't wait. The other parents should be going through this. That's what they're basically saying. It's like this, it's just insane. It's a good point. Corey, anything? Any closing thoughts, man?
No, I can't pretty much echo the sentiment that Prime just said, where he brought up the good example of like, when it's in the name of the common god now, like that's fine. But if I start invoking like Apollo or Zeus, people are gonna start looking at me as crazy. Like this is all in Apollo's plan. Like I should be locked up if I start saying that over and over and over again. Or like, yes, my child's going through this. I just knew that this was this is what Zeus intended all along. Like people would understand and look at me as they should, crazy if I said something like that. But yeah,
I started saying thank the maker. Like rather than thank God, I started saying thank the maker. I got that from Transformers. They'll say that. So why not? But yeah.
Nice. But yeah, as always, this has been great. Always a pleasure to have these discussions and the back and forth, and the hopefully in the future, some MAGA or MAHA Republicans will have the courage to engage in some debate. But you can find me on Twitch, Corey Campbell 84, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Substack. It's Corey Campbell, and yeah, as always, it's been great.
YouTube, Twitch, Kick, TikTok, Prime Kai, PRIMECAYES. We'd love to have you. Thanks so much.
Sweet. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Well, that was it for this week. Thank you, Time Scroll, for passing by and for your input. And hopefully, it seems like you're in Europe, so I imagine it's like an early morning for you. So I hope the rest of your day goes well. And then thank you, Katie, for passing by. Great to see you. Also hope you're doing well. Yeah, I imagine maybe around 8 a.m., 9 a.m., something like that. And then thank you, Savage Ace, for passing by. Always a pleasure. And anybody else that I forgot, I apologize. But that's it for this week. Should be back, or I plan to be back next week because we plan to do this show weekly for another panel. And there's going to be other stories that we're going to cover for sure because there's always something happening in the Maha and MAGA movement. But yeah, until next week, take care and be well. Thank you for tuning in.